And we are live. What's up, Randy? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself? What you up to?
Oh man, it's been wild. Here, well, let me do the introduction. Everyone, welcome to the Doctor of Stuff channel. I'm your host, Doctor of Stuff. I got a co-host here, Randy.
I'm on the other
Chavez.
side of it. You're like pointing this way, and I'm
Randy, the real Randy Chavez. There's two Randys actually. There's one off screen that really he's just sitting across the room from me. No, but that's awesome. Yeah, Doctor Stuff channel. You can call me Doc. And everything that we discuss here, just obviously, like I say, this is a disclaimer. Nothing should be taken as financial advice, right? Like we're talking about things that we're doing that we enjoy, speculation, a lot of things. We got a lot to chat about. A lot, and in fact, more, Randy, than I realized. Actually, right before we went on, I didn't realize that VV had done a different live stream. So we'll have to talk about that. But look, why don't we just dive into the live stream that just happened there with the announcement of the Addiction 2. I want to get your thoughts on it. I want to get your thoughts.
Monkeys. I'm a big fan of Planet of the Apes. So as soon as they went on and said, "Oh yeah, Marvel has this deal with Planet of the Apes, and we should get those soon," I literally screamed. I was alone in this gigantic house. So I was like, because I was so happy. And I was going back and forth doing a couple of things. So that was one of the first things that they announced today. And I don't know about you. I've seen every one of those movies multiple times. Are you a fan, or you're just like, take it or leave it?
Planet of the Apes?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the new ones. I've never seen the old ones. Never seen the old movies. I've seen clips of them, and I mean, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
But like it's to be expected for how long ago those movies
made like 45 years ago.
Talk to me about that. Why do you love them so much? I know that there's actually quite a big fandom of it.
So I don't know how much I could talk about without giving it. I mean, it's been 45 years. Well, I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay, yeah. All right, that's fair. That's fair.
But it is. So it just the fish out of water story. You are a human, and suddenly you find yourself in a world ruled by apes, and okay, this is interesting. How do I adapt? They obviously are. They're talking, at least in the first one. They talk, and you have there's this big line that I won't give away, but it has one story, and then towards the ending, it's very somber, and I don't even want to say bittersweet because it's not really sweet. It's like these beings that are so close to you, they could practically be your cousins just because we share like 98, 99% DNA with them. It's like 98.5.
Okay.
And they fumble the bag. They have all this power, and then they heck it up. It's why part of the reason why I really hate the Star Wars prequels, because at the end of episode 6, Leia goes on to be, like this world leader, this galactic leader. Luke has a school, and then everything's all messed up. Like, y'all drop the bag so hard. And you see that happen with this species, and you see so I love them. All of the stories are incredible. I think except like the Mark Wahlberg one, that was really bad. But yeah, I love all of them, and special place in my heart. I think VV Fanbam was super excited about that too. And yeah, the most recent 3 that they had, that was really good as well. I really enjoyed those. So yeah,
that's awesome, man. So I want to get your thoughts on. I don't want people's thoughts in the chat. I did find the whole Dumpling thing like kind of odd. I was like, what is happening here? It's like an infomercial a little bit, like halfway through for these dumplings. But like, am I gonna try them? I'll probably order some. I gotta try them. But that was interesting. That was interesting. The other thing that I thought was interesting was the 7 different covers. Did they say the edition size? How many they're going to have?
If they did, I missed it. But it was, it's kind of a first for that. You've had others with like 3 and 4 different covers, but yeah, having these of 7 that's the first of that. Yeah, well,
yes.
it's the kind of the Apes comics. So
Yeah, sorry, Planet of the Comics. Yeah. And Aliens too, right? They talked about Aliens, and wasn't there one other one that they said?
Was it Predator?
Yeah, Predator. That was
Okay,
that was a specific one that they announced.
Yeah.
Looks like some people missed that, right? There we go. Yeah, Predator and Aliens and Planet of the Apes.
Oh, that's so
that'll
cool.
be cool, man. That'll be super cool.
I love those movies as well, and some of them are really bad, like the Alien vs Predator movies. Like some of them are god awful. But I think last time they had an addiction comic or they had stuff come out that you got like a free pizza or you got like a discount on pizza. So maybe Vincent Zerzolo, they just have like a weird affinity for food, and
oh my god. Okay, bro. I have to tell this story. I have to tell this story because the addiction, they had the Grimaldi's deal that he was talking about, right? So hold on just a second.
Well, hello everyone. Do you like my American flag in the background? The pull-up bar that I have used earlier today.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm eating Grimaldi's, but hold on, right? So I got this piece, like this pizza, right, which was my actual pizza that I ordered. And then I got this pizza, but I gotta tell you guys, this story. It's crazy. So I walk into Grimaldi's. I always try to eat at Grimaldi's anytime I'm in New York. I freaking love the pizza. So when they announced that Addiction was like partnering with Grimaldi's, which I'm pissed because I forgot to order that. I typically just get the margarita. Like I love their margarita pizza and I add pepperoni. So anyways, there's this new lady there. And like I walk in and they're like, hey, the oven, we're cleaning the oven. It's going to be like 20 minutes. And I was like, well, I just walked like 45 minutes from my hotel to eat the pizza. So they're like, it's going to be 20-minute wait. You know, can you wait that long? I was like, yes, I'm down. I'm excited to eat the pizza. So like, there's no one in Grimaldi's, right? So this lady who like is kind of like running the store, like she just sits down and starts chatting with me. She's like, hey, how's it going? Like, where are you from? And I guess she's like from Serbia, and it was like I was trying to watch actually like the Chelsea versus Manchester United game, and what a game that was! Go Chelsea! That was crazy. But anyway, she's like talking. I'm trying to like watch, and she's just like, so like, what are you doing here? Like it just starts this conversation, right? And I'm like, okay, like she wants to talk. There's no one here. She's bored, and so we're talking, and apparently she's like Serbian/Russian. Like her dad like sold diamonds from this like Russian mine, and she was like this. She was like a cage fight. Well, she was a ballet dancer until she was like 15, and then she got into like cage fighting.
I'm in love. Is she single?
Yeah, she is single. In fact, she was kind of hitting on me, and I was like, yeah. So I was kind of like, I'm like, yeah, my 2 kids. Like I was trying to like drop into stuff. I was like, my wife, but and she's like, anyway, so she's like, oh, I'm an MMA, like I did cage fighting, and I was like, really, you know, and she's like, no, like seriously, and I'm like, I know, like I don't believe you, and she's like, no, for real, and she's like I like fight every day and like train and stuff, and she's like, feel my arm, right, and I'm like your arm? I'm like, okay, dude, I grab her arm. And it was like a bar of iron. It was so soft. I like jumped back. I was like, oh my gosh. Like that is like the firmest.
I'm in love.
It was crazy, right? And she's telling me about how her grandpa taught her chess. Cause like, I don't know, we just got in this crazy conversation. It was like the wildest thing, man. She just was talking about all this random stuff. And like this other server guy he played for the under 16 for the country of Georgia for their national team. Because like, we were talking about soccer. It was just such a wild experience. So anyways, I'm about to leave. And she's like, hey, do you have any friends? And I was like, I mean, I like to think I have friends. And she's like, no, do you have any friends? Like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going back to my hotel. And she's like, do you have any friends? I was like, no, like not at the hotel. And she's like, well, look, someone just like prank called some pizzas in, and whatever the food app is, they're like, they paid us back. So we just got to have like these 8 pizzas. And she's like, I want you to take one back to your hotel. And I was like, I already have like my And she's like, you're taking the pizza back to the hotel. And then and I was like, okay. And she's like, you're taking a drink. So dude, I lugged like a box and a half of pizza and this like 6 Cokes back to my hotel room. It was like 2 miles. Like, I'm just like walking to New York with this. I was like, I got tons of pizza. Anyways, sorry, guys, that was random.
I don't mean this to sound in any homosexual way, but I wish I was there with you right now in your room, sharing your bed, eating that pizza. Oh God, that sounds so good.
Dude, it's good. It's so good pizza. If you guys are ever in if you're ever in New York, I'm telling you, Grimaldi's pizza, phenomenal. And next time I truly will remember to order the addiction one. Yeah. So
I was straight up looking at photos of Grimaldi, like trying to see if the owner ever snapped a picture of like herself. She hasn't. Because I just wanted to see she looks like, and I'll totally go there when I get back. And when I get back.
So this lady, so this is the funny thing though. This lady wasn't the owner. I was like talking to her, I thought she was the owner. And so I'm talking to her and stuff. And I was like, well, so how long have you worked here? And she's like, oh, like 3 weeks. I was like, wait a second, you worked here 3 weeks and you're like handing out like the food, you know? Because like she gives me this pizza and then the chef guy is like yelling at her or something. And she's like, no, chef, it's okay. I give it to her. She like goes and talks to him for like 5 minutes and comes back. And she's like, yeah, take the pizza. And I'm like, I don't need the pizza. She's like, take the pizza. It was so funny.
You can't say no to them. They'll armbar you. And
I mean, after she was like, and she did offer to teach me some like fighting moves, like in the restaurant right then. And I'm like, I'm okay. It was such a funny conversation, man. I was just like, is this happening right now?
Oh, how would have done it?
Listen, guys, when we do New York Comic Con, 2 things. We are gonna freaking go to Real Kung Fu Little Steamed Buns, and we're going to Grimaldi's. Like that's happening. So let's see. VV Fan Bam, and she was pretty good looking. She was pretty good looking. Like I said, like ballet dancer. She like had this, but yeah, literally could have beat the crap out of me, like, and you at the same time, bro. It was crazy. Okay, we can get back to the chat. I'm sorry, guys. I've just been like thinking about this whole time. I just walking back to my hotel. I was like, what just happened there? That was wild.
Hey Heather, how's it going? So old Rhubarb, he was on the stream before, and then he was also on Comics and Crypto's stream earlier today.
Yeah.
And he happened to mention something. I don't know if he let it slip or if he purposely, tactfully dropped this for us to pick up. But he mentioned that someone in the VV team used to work for Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll is literally like the house of anime. So when David mentioned before, manga and anime, oh God, that is the second time this week that they've kind of mentioned that. Should we continue talking about this, or should I get to the previous few nights when they were speaking about it?
Go for it, dude. Go, yeah. Like,
okay, so it was on Elite Comics, not Elite Comics. It was on Comic Club on YouTube. Comic Book Club had like 13,000 subscribers. I wish that they would be going on like more places that had higher numbers, bigger audience, but I get it. They just, announced this amazing disruptive comic book thing with Marvel. So they're going to go on, who's going to be interested in that. But the first thing that Dan mentioned, saying that, David is literally a level 9,000 collector. So obviously that's a Dragon Ball Z reference for the over 9,000. Mentioning that they've sold about 5 million comics to date. David obviously had that cool Wolverine comic behind him, a Superman comic and photo, picture of Rick and Morty. He's had that for a while, so I'm kind of thinking that Rick and Morty will come at some point. Like whenever it changes, that never changes. That always stays there. David pulled out, hey, call me Skywalker. I bet. Oh, I gotta try that.
I had to share that, Randy, just for you.
Thanks, Ed. David was asked what his favorite like piece of art or artist was, and he pulled out a bunch of Frank Miller stuff, which is he's the one that also did the Wolverine comic in the back of him. And then Dan got to nerd out a little bit, saying he rearranges his collectibles on his shelves every couple of months. He got to answer the energy consumption question because there's still people that are convinced that NFTs take up like the electricity of a nation, when clearly they don't. So he got to mention that. Talked about the VV blog. They went on to prove that basically digital collecting is more environmentally safe than physicals. David mentioned that aside from Marvel, they are working with other comic publishers as well. So hopefully they have something like shoujo manga or something like that. And then obviously Image or Dark Horse Comics. When asked about Image specifically, David just said, oh, we have NDAs. Oh, we can't talk about that. Basically letting us know that, yeah, we have it. And yeah, that was kind of what they covered 2 days ago.
Well, yeah, thanks for that recap, man. I'll have to go listen to that. I had seen something, but for some reason I thought that it wasn't live yet. Yeah, VV putting out the content. Addiction 2, that'll be good. And I love the support. Like what I really enjoyed about that live too, I guess it wasn't live, but that premiere was like the passion, right, of Vincent and David. Just like, man, they were so pumped about that. And like, I love that. I love the creators. And so definitely excited to read comic number 2 of the Addiction and look at some of those different covers. Because people were like, oh, those covers look dope. But like, did they show a flash of the covers? Because I only saw it in the background and it was hard. I was like looking and I was like, I'm having a hard time seeing that.
For the, for what the stuff? I don't know if they did or not. If they did, I missed it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. What is this in reference to? What pudding? What was that? What was that looking for? Something.
Oh, that was recently, right? Oh, I think where I was talking about the comics like Dark Horse or Image or anime or manga. That's when you put it. Yeah. You put that up pretty recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so hey, Randy, like I thought it'd be good. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've done a live stream or just been super busy. And I'm like, I want to do a recap because people reach out to me in the DMs and they're like, hey, like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on? And it's good that I'm like, Puddin' Cheeks is here in Foster, talking about like the bronze tickets. And you know, like there was a mixed reaction. So let's talk about the bronze tickets first, right? So we just ended season 1 of OMI, OMI rewards, right? And with that came the max supply or the max that you could get if you held 10 million OMI in the app during the first quarter of 2024. You could get rewarded up to 350 bronze tickets. Right now, we can't use the bronze tickets yet, but they are like
you can redeem them for points if you wanted.
Touche. You can. I was thinking of using them for extra entries, but yes. So right now, like you can redeem them if you want for MCP points, and you know it's so funny because the first complaint even before people got the tickets, when they found out like how many points you were going to get, there was, you know, people upset about that. They were just like, oh geez, it's like a measly, how many points per ticket is like, and I know that it like, they call it like a decay rate depending on
it's like
12.5, but like if you don't catch them all in at the same time, how much is it?
If you don't, then it's 12.5, but if you do, then it winds up only being like 1,000, like much less than 2,000 tickets, like 1,900 or anywhere between like 1,000 and 1,900 tickets, give or take, if you capture all of them at the same time.
1,900 MCP points.
Correct.
Interesting. So 1,900 though, that won't even get you Master Collector then.
It'll be close. Like unless you're like, if you have 10 million OMI in the app, you're most likely like you're getting 640 points per day. So
15. Puddin' Cheeks is saying 15 points per ticket.
Okay, and then that's per ticket, and then if you have Foster, and then if you have, because it goes, I don't know, I haven't tried to sit down and figure out the rate. If I tried to do that, it would likely take me several hours of just, and I might, in math, sometimes you could do certain things wrong and get the right answer. It looks like it's like a wicked curve, almost like half a parabola. Like it starts down here, it goes up. And then I don't know what the formula is like because it's like the more that you cash in at one time, the less you get.
Yeah.
And I don't know what type of curve that would be. So it would be just guesswork.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I guess my point in discussing this and why I think it's so important, and I know that you've kind of covered it, but for people watching, if you hadn't listened to Randy before, like one of the utilities of this really is when you combine, if you've got 10 million OMI, right, that you have in the VV app, that gives you like a certain amount of MCP points on a daily basis, which I think is around what, 600 to 700?
640 the last time I checked.
Okay, so 640. If you then combine that with cashing in all of your bronze tickets at one time, it basically gets you for one day into master collector status. Now, why is that important? And I think that the people haven't really thought that through yet, right? But there will be drops, we've been told, in the future that like you're going to have like the master collector status just to get access to the drop. So it will allow you to get access to maybe like a highly sought after drop or something that you wouldn't be able to get into otherwise. So that's one of the rewards on top of just like the daily MCP points that you're getting. And then if you didn't need that, because like for me, honestly, like I have enough points, like I don't need to cash in the bronze tickets for points. Yep, master collector status. And I've been raising that because I kind of seen like that bar raise. Like I've seen those wallets and tracking the wallets and what they're buying. I'm like, I got to keep myself up there, which is part of the gamification that I think that we're going to start seeing coming here, right? Is I want to stay in the master collector status, and it's only the 1%. So it'll be very interesting how that plays out. But like, so it's just a compliment, and it's something that you get for free. And so it was a little bit surprised. I was a bit surprised when people were complaining and they're like, "This is all I get," and I'm like, okay, but I hold a ton of other tokens. I hold a ton of other tokens, right? That are just sitting in my cold wallet or like, or like on a warm wallet or something and like giving me nothing, And I'm like, with this, I'm keeping it in the app. So yes, I did have to bridge it and like, I can't sell them immediately. I'd have to bridge them back to layer one, but I'm like, this is utility. This is what I've been looking for. And I'm like, when I combine like the bronze tickets, and then I also combine the airdrops, which not gonna lie, I thought like as I put this together and I was like, oh, I'll be talking on Thursday. I thought that we would have had the airdrop of the collectibles by now. So a little surprised about that we don't have that to talk about. Then I was like, oh, well, maybe they'll talk about it during this addiction thing. Maybe there's something in combination with that. Didn't happen. But regardless, we're going to get something. And I know that there's been people who've calculated the number of wallets. I think it's like 537 wallets that had 577.
Correct.
Okay, so 577 wallets that had 10 million OMI or more that are going to get all three collectible airdrops. So I would like to ask you, and also I'd love to hear from people in the chat what their speculation is on what these airdrops are going to be, because if they're airdropping it, right, the IP is not getting paid. They'll make money on the secondary if those get traded. So do you think that it's going to be VV IP or maybe even like OMI IP, like the OMI version of a gold and silver VV logo or something? Or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. As I go and answer, should we get Foster on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, send him the link.
You're sending him the link? You want me to send him the link?
I just sent it. Most likely it will be something Akomi related, because it's their first type of thing on there. It could be other types of VV stuff or maybe a combination of both. The only other person or the IP that I could see us on that could get on there would be like Iran English, just because he's done so much stuff already. My day.
Yes.
What's going on? What's going on, guys?
Well, you look so good, man.
Good to see you, Foster.
It's the lighting. It's always the lighting. You got lighting figured out, and you're good to go.
Well, that's true, because Randy did not say that to me, and my lighting is atrocious here in my hotel room.
How is NFT NYC? You might have mentioned it. I popped in a little later on the stream, but is it going good?
It is going good. I got lots to share, man, but definitely like the highlight meeting Pro the Doge, and then like I choose Rich Nick, man. That was fun. That was fun. Definitely want to talk about that. But anyway, let's not detract from you're here and definitely okay, so you can set us straight. So a couple things, Bill, as an FYI, no, bronze tickets do not increase your MCP every day. If you cash them in, then for that next day, the next 24 hours, right, is my understanding, it will elevate your rank to whatever like tier you hit, right? So if you're able to cash in all of your bronze tickets, you have 350, it gives you 1,900 points, and then you have like your 640 daily that gets you to 2540. And my understanding is that does meet the threshold of master collector. So if there was a drop that required you to be a master collector to access the drop, it would give you that for that day, but then you would be burning your bronze tickets and it would have no mas until next season.
Yeah, so great question. So obviously the intention eventually is that users will be able to purchase bronze tickets. And one of the ways that you'll likely be able to do that is with OMI tokens, right? So we've mentioned that kind of in our season 1 article. I believe it's still there in the season 2 article as well. So that is an intended feature that will be coming. But right now, the only way that you can earn bronze tickets is through the seasonal rewards. So right now, you'll be able to earn those bronze tickets. Everyone that participated in season 1 that was eligible for deposits already earned their tickets. And obviously, they're getting an airdrop associated with that as well, which we can also get into a little bit here. But for the bronze tickets themselves, essentially, when you're redeeming them, it affects your daily accrual immediately. So let's say I'm earning 100 points a day and I redeem one ticket. I'll get 115 points for that day, and it will take effect for the day that I make the redemption on. So if I make the redemption, it immediately affects my rank. So if there's some specific reason why I want to increase the amount of MCP allotment that I get, whether it be for the daily rank that will change only on that date. So whether it's a rank or level-based feature that you're trying to access and redeeming those points on that day matters to you specifically, then of course you can do that. Otherwise, you can redeem the bronze tickets on any day, and it will increase the overall MCP points that you have. Of course, it will also affect your rank for that day as well. But then the next day, it'll recalculate your points. And of course, you're not earning bonus for that day as well. So you go back to earning whatever amount that you're earning otherwise. So there is, of course, conceivably a world where people can boost up their ranks all the way up to master rank, depending on how many points they are earning. Whether or not that becomes a viable thing in the ecosystem, we will obviously have to wait and see. But it will definitely add some levels of gamification and could provide people with more opportunities to participate in things as they inevitably start to roll out.
Yeah. So here's another. In the past, they talked about bronze tickets being able to basically buy you additional entries into like a drop. Is that still like going to be a thing?
Yeah, so the additional entries right now are you using MCP points to get entries. So one of the interesting things as you start to options and you start to explore them. So the additional entries for the waitlist was a really cool idea when it was initially kind of proposed. Yeah. But the issue actually becomes when you look at American sweepstakes laws, there actually are some issues with having entries. And when you have an entry specifically, and then you go to utilize it, you can actually run into some issues with some sweepstake laws. So, you'll often see, we've announced features historically and ideas and things that we've wanted to add to a roadmap. And then we've had to pivot away from those. And a lot of people just go, oh, well, they're abandoning it. They don't want to give utility to the token anymore, or whatever the case may be. And really, it's been really incredible to watch behind the scenes all of the discussions and considerations that come into making any decision that goes into utility or accessibility for the token. And so for one of those things, when it comes to additional entries, there were some concerns around sweepstakes laws. So how we've effectively kind of pivoted away from that and created a kind of a system that we find to be effective moving forward is you just have basically the bid system with the MCP points. So you can essentially bid your MCP points, and if you don't get to a certain threshold, which is the amount that you'd hit, 40% of a specific drop. If you're not within the first 400 of that or whatever, you're not eligible. You get your points back. Otherwise, you bid. But because it's an open bid system and it's kind of a free for all, it's rather than, you're paying for specific entries to hit certain tiers, we found it to be an effective system. So is there a world where we might see bids again? Maybe. That's more of kind of a VV mechanic regardless. But right now, just to kind of be mindful of the regulations that exist, or sometimes it's even being mindful of regulations that don't exist, but that are being proposed in different jurisdictions and things like that. We want to not be reactive. We want to be proactive in a lot of the decisions that we're making, which can sometimes feel as though things take longer to roll out than we want them to. But it's really because, when we want to roll out or announce a feature, we want to make sure that when we roll it out, we can roll it out in the way that we intended it to function. And then we're not going to roll it out for, a week and then have to pull the plug on it again. Right. So, and I think, we'll get into the airdrop as well. And we can touch on that briefly, considerations that go into things like that as well. So, a lot of fun to see all the decisions. And, I try and be as transparent as I can. It's not, it's not, anything that's, worth kind of speculating on. It's nothing crazy, but there's a lot of legal advice that goes into the decisions that we make, just as a byproduct of the industry that we're in. So we make do and push forward.
It's really interesting. Look, I'm a regulations guy, right? Like that's one of the things that I talk on my channel, like understanding just the compliance and this space. And it's fascinating to me how these projects, like they just go for it anyways. So like a project, one of the sponsors of NFT NYC called Squid Grow. I don't know if you guys have heard of Shibtoshi, right? Big guy, like it's very fascinating story. But like I was talking to one of their team members about like the utility of this token. And they're like, like we're going to get this revenue. And then what we're going to be doing is with that revenue, we're going to be buying like the floor of the token. And I was like, that sounds like a share buyback, which would make you guys a security. And like, I didn't say anything, right? I'm like, look, like this is not that space to like get into like, hey, have you guys considered the fact that might be a security? Like, but it is funny. Like as much as like, I do understand that space, even like the sweepstakes stuff. Cause I was like, the Comey really hasn't talked about like, purchasing additional entries. And so I understand what you mean now with additional MCP points, allowing you to bid more towards a certain collectible. And like, that will be the utility there. So I appreciate that clarification because like I had, until now, I kind of had assumed that maybe that was still coming.
No, it's a great point. And I mean, obviously I think one of the things that I'm trying to work on is fractured communication. So I think we've kind of moved away from no communication and we're starting to communicate, but it ends up being fractured, right? So I'll talk to you here tonight, but if it doesn't get relayed on socials, on Twitter, on Discord, on Telegram, then, the same question will come up tomorrow because people don't know about it, right? So it's one of those things where, if it comes up on an official social and it can be answered or be clarified, then we do our best to get it out there. But unless you follow the space, 24/7, like, shout out to a lot of people in the chat who, we see them, on the grind every single day on socials, interacting with the community and kind of staying up to date. But if you're just, kind of an average consumer, hits a couple of VV drops, holds some OMI in the background, but you're not really paying attention, you don't know a lot of this stuff and it's completely fair. And so I think it is important to have that level of transparency to basically explain to people, we may not give out kind of definitive roadmaps where we say, hey, this feature's coming on this date at this time, but we can kind of give you an overarching theme of, our priorities and the things that we're working towards and, kind of reaffirm the fact that it's in line with the expectations of what the community is hoping for. And, community feedback is really a major driver for the project and really does impact a lot of decisions that we make. And, I think people start to realize that as we roll out certain things, they go, oh, hey, this is something we've been asking for or something, we've wanted to check out. And then, alternatively, sometimes we'll roll out things where, maybe no one's been asking for this, but hey, this is really cool. And I'm looking forward to this as well. So I think for me, it's just really working on kind of hitting a steady pace of deliverables and making sure that we're communicating the things that we can so people don't feel like they're left out in the cold. I think obviously we've seen, in the last month or so, especially on the Akomi side, more of a renewed focus on the token. You know, we've seen a couple of exchange listings with BitGet,
Yes.
and then obviously most recently MEXC with trading going live earlier today. And then, of course, we had Season 2 of OMI Rewards starting. We have the airdrop for Season 1 holders, and now we have the redemption in place for bronze tickets holders. So a lot of things that are coming. Obviously, OMI to NFT is a huge priority. I've seen a couple of people mention it in the chat as well, something that I'm obviously very much looking forward to. And yeah, overall, just accessibility and utility for the token have really been drivers for the token this year. And I feel like, you know, in Q1 was kind of a step in the right direction, but obviously we still have a lot of year left in us and even beyond. And the roadmap doesn't just stop when we hit the end of the year, right? There's so many things that we want to work on and deliver for the community, for things that they've been asking for when it comes to utility and accessibility. So things that I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, it's nice to be able to hop on and have these kind of impromptu conversations. And obviously we're working on kind of our formal comms on a lot of things as well.
Good.
And
yeah. I like that. So here's the question, right? Like it's talking about, will the airdrops be VV brand or a Comey brand? Because that would be my assumption, right? Is because it's coming from a Comey through the utility of the token. I'm assuming it's probably going to be more Comey related potentially. And obviously, maybe you can say anything, maybe you can't. But I think it's also a great question. Is like in the future, will some of these airdrops come from some of the IP, or will it always kind of be more VV / a Comey tied like IP, right? Just specific to those two entities.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not aware, obviously I'm not necessarily involved in those conversations when it comes to picking out specific assets for those decisions. I obviously don't work directly with licensors. I don't work for VV. So I'm not sure what kind of conversations or decisions they have when it comes to making those decisions. I actually recently just saw the assets, I want to say yesterday, maybe it was the day before, was the first time I actually got a chance to actually see them for myself. So I was really excited about that. And there's definitely more of an OMI focus on this Season 1 airdrop. Obviously, it's for OMI rewards. So the kind of the underlying theme is to, you know, thank people for supporting us through Season 1 of OMI rewards. So no Tokidokis or anything like that. They will be Ecomi specific rewards. So what they end up being, people will see. And I guess on the airdrop front, because it's a valid question, you know, coming back to transparency and talking about how we go about making decisions, right? You know, you brought up kind of another token in the space right now, and I try not to throw you know, shade or anything at any other project, because realistically we're all just trying to kind of navigate this new landscape that's never existed before. And you know, we've definitely made our fair share of missteps, so I'm not going to pretend like we're the gold standard when it comes to making decisions on things. But you know, I think I really am a firm believer, and I know some people feel like it's a cop-out, but I really do believe, you know, if you're familiar with the story of the tortoise and the hare, you know, slow and steady wins the race. And you know, in a lot of things in life, it's fun to say, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. But when it comes to something like the OMI token, you know, we're not in a position where we can just go, oopsie, we just decided to do something and this regulatory agency came down on us, or this happened, or whatever, right? Like that's not the responsible thing to do. And no one's going to look back on that when we do that and go, oh, wow, I'm really glad that they just rushed it and hoped that it worked out, right? Yes, so it can feel frustrating when things take longer and you see other projects that are, you know, moving quicker or faster when it comes to certain things. And, you know, yes, it's frustrating for me too, but at the end of the day, you know, I believe in the staying power of the project and what we're looking to build. And when we're still here in 3 to 5 years, continuing to build on the things that we'll have already delivered on and things that have not come to fruition yet and will inevitably get here, I won't have any regrets about the fact that we did it right. And yes, it takes longer, but I'd rather do it right the first time than have to go back and fix a bunch of stuff that's broken. And, you know, we saw that kind of back in 2021 where VV grew way quicker than I think anyone had anticipated. And it took so long for them to play catch up just to get to the point where they probably should have been the first time had things been done the right way. But now we kind of have that benefit of knowing kind of where our user base stands, what the demands are. The regulatory landscape is becoming a little bit more clear, although in some areas it's obviously still, you know, very difficult. But overall, we're moving forward in the right direction. So, yeah, it's fun to be moving in that direction. But when it comes to the things like the airdrop and stuff, you know, we never announced a date. We never announced a date specifically for when that airdrop was going to come. It was going to come in season 2, right? So
I assumed.
Same.
That was my bad.
No, and that's perfectly fine. And, I've seen obviously a couple people now, and I've had people reach out to me, hey, why isn't this airdrop come yet? It's season 2, and totally fair. And I mean, people are excited about it, and I don't blame them. It's something that people waited on for 3 months with rewards, and now we're at that point now, and where is this, right? So, certain things to keep in mind, and like I said, in the interest of transparency, this was the first season that we had awarded bronze tickets. And so until April 1st, we had absolutely no idea whether the system was actually going to function correctly or if it was going to completely just on us, right? So we needed an opportunity to review the data to make sure that everyone that was entitled to rewards would be eligible for rewards. And one of the issues that we actually ran into that we hadn't even previously considered was people that had made deposits into the platform on December 31st, but after January 1st, government mountain time or general mountain time, like GMT, right? So we're a company that's worldwide, but the cutoff for me anyways was 8 p.m., right? Was technically the cutoff, but from 8 to midnight, for me, it's still December 31st. For PST, it's only 5 p.m., so you had 8 hours. So we ran into a situation where there were some people that made deposits on December 31st on their accounts. They could produce, they made the deposit, but they weren't eligible because the system had calculated it at 00 GMT. So if we had awarded the airdrop April 1st or April 2nd, well, now we're in a situation where did these people get excluded? Do we mint additional assets, which is going to upset everyone that maybe made decisions on the platform in the secondary market based on the supply that existed? So, if in an ideal world, we would have had it on April 1st. I would have loved to have had it on April 1st. But for a situation like this, especially with a feature that you've never had before, you'd rather take the time to make sure that it functioned correctly. And we actually identified, I think it was close to 80 people that were either moved into a different tier higher because of this GMT transition over a period of 8 hours, or who were eligible at all, who would have not otherwise been eligible had we not taken that into consideration. So we were in the process of compiling a list throughout this week to make sure that everyone that was affected was eligible. We had people reach out to us on our socials, and our support team has been reaching out to those people to let them know that they will in fact be eligible. We'll worry about the bronze ticket allocation after the fact. We're looking to see whether or not we can allocate the bronze tickets to those users or not. If we can't, not the end of the world, because it's not a crafting event. It's going to be an airdrop, but we'll know on the system that they were eligible. But, things like that, right? So do I anticipate the airdrop 2 months from now? No, absolutely not. It should, all things considered, be much sooner than that. But part of the reason that goes into, hey, it's April 1st, why don't we have an airdrop is, well, hey, let's just make sure, it's not going anywhere, right? Like everyone that was eligible are the only people that are going to be eligible. Let's make sure that we do this right, because we want to do it once, we want to do it right, and we want everyone to feel as though they have been included and we're not leaving anyone behind. Because at the end of the day, we're one big community, right? So I do anticipate hopefully some information going out in the next little while about that. When I say next little while, don't expect a tweet tomorrow, right? I don't give time frames because I always go, oh, hopefully soon, and then I'll get a message tomorrow at 2 p.m. Oh, but it's not out yet. So we're working on it. It definitely is one of the priorities. But of course, we've also been balancing that with other things as well, right? We had the MEXC announcement that came out the other day. We had season 2 of OMI Rewards that we were preparing for to make sure that went well. OMI to NFT is obviously a huge feature set that we're working on right now. And that's, got a lot of different people involved in it to make sure that gets off the ground effectively. VV rolled out VV Comics recently, right? So there's a lot of moving parts, and you just want to make sure that when you do something like this, and not to say that the airdrop isn't a priority, but you just want to make sure that those big things are covered off, right? Like obviously VV Comics had some issues. Do you want support having to worry about airdrop stuff, or do you want them worried about people that spent money on the platform that didn't receive what they got, right? So just allocating the resources as effectively as possible. So I'm looking forward to the airdrop. That information will get out to you guys as soon as I can get it out, and I'm looking forward to getting everyone's feedback on the 3 items that'll be coming out.
Awesome. So I've got a follow-up question, Foster. Let's address some of the FUD. Right. Because Mr. V, who I really enjoy in this community, right, he put out a tweet with the calculation kind of, it was like, hey, here's how much OMI I had, which wasn't a lot in the app. And he ended up getting a significant amount of bronze tickets. And there were some people who were quite upset saying, like I had 10 million in the app and I got 350, and then someone had like 10,000 and they got like 180 80, or I'm just making that number up, right?
Yeah.
But it actually, it did surprise me when I saw how much OMI they had and then how many bronze tickets. Can you walk through that thought process? Because for my take, right, I definitely was like, that seems pretty high, the amount of bronze tickets those people got for having OMI there. And then I guess the follow-up question to that would be, is that going to be adjusted moving forward? Or is that kind of like the set? Because I think when we talk about communication and transparency, I think it would be good, like going forward, if however you guys decide to do it, saying like, hey, the bare minimum, if you have one OMI in the app, bare minimum, you're going to get X, right? And then maybe there's like a calculation like, hey, here's the tiers or something like that. But because people didn't know, I think that's where it created this opportunity, because then people were expecting, they're like, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, this isn't fair. But if it was announced right from the beginning, then people are like, well, like, it is what it is, right? So I'd love for you to touch on that.
Absolutely. So obviously one of the things for the first season of bronze tickets was, we really didn't know how many people were going to be participating until the season started, right? And as a part of that, we wanted to get a sense of how does the system get balanced. And you can run as many formulas and as many graphs as you want, but until you actually implement a system and can look at the data and kind of see how it all breaks down, you really can't tell with a relative degree of certainty how effective it was at balancing for you, right? So one of the things that I think was considered, and obviously I'm not the one making these decisions, people that are, much better with math and stuff are the ones making those decisions. But I've kind of got a grasp and understanding of why we went that route. And so really the rationale is we want everyone in the ecosystem to feel like they can participate and be rewarded for using VV and using OMI within the ecosystem, right? So, if you circle back to circa, late 2021, early 2022, whenever the, initial kind of OUP was released, and you looked at it, I think it was a minimum of $500 or $1,000 that you needed to hold on the platform in order to earn any rewards at all, right? And so $500 is a lot of money for a lot of people. It's a lot of money for me. I don't know about you guys, right? Like $500 is a good amount of money. Yeah. Not accessible necessarily for the average person, right? People that are going out there, maybe spending 20, 40, $100 a month on the VV app, probably didn't want to have $500 on the platform. So one of the rationales behind that is, we have whales, we have our average consumers, we have our core base, but we want VV to have some level of mass adoption. And mass adoption really caters to everyone. And so do you skew it too high to whales, right? Where you just give whales all the rewards and congratulations, you have the most money. It's a pay to win system, go to town.
Yeah.
That might work for 1,000 or 2,000 people, but why is anyone else going to come in and feel like they don't even have a shot at participating? So you need to balance that. Well, if you give only the newest people all the rewards, then the people with all the money are going to go, well, why am I going to continue to put money in the ecosystem? Because I'm not getting any rewards for it. I may as well just have no money in like everyone else. So when you look at the balance and some of the things, and I've seen the post and they're valid, right? But I think part of the things that people don't take into consideration when these concerns come up is, one is, I'll give you an example. If you had 10 million OMI in the ecosystem, you earned 350 bronze tickets. If you had one OMI in the ecosystem, you earned 3 bronze tickets, right? Which is a 100-to-1 ratio between the two, but it's a 10 million to 1 ratio between the tickets. But if you wanted to make that system linear and you wanted to give the person that earned 1 bronze ticket 1 OMI, well, then people that had 10 million tickets would have to earn 10 million bronze tickets. It would completely dilute the system. It wouldn't make it effective, and it would make them useless, right? So you can't do that. Now, one of the pieces that's missing from the puzzle that people didn't necessarily take into consideration when they were looking at the bronze tickets is, well, I have 10 OMI in the ecosystem for the entire season. How many daily MCP points am I also earning? Because that system, unlike the bronze ticket system, is a linear calculation. So if you only have 1 OMI in the ecosystem for the entire 3 months, you're maybe earning a fraction of 1 MCP point. Whereas if you have 10 million OMI in the ecosystem, you're earning 550 or 600, whatever it is right now, right? So you're earning infinitely more. And for a lot of people, for myself as an example, I would not be a master collector on the VV app if I was not holding 10 million OMI on the OMI platform, right? I would I think I earn about 2,100 MCP points without my OMI, but with my OMI, I earn about 2,700.
Yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't have that opportunity if I couldn't take advantage of both. So for me, it makes sense to hold 10 million. If I only held 1 token, I wouldn't be a master collector. But then when it comes to redeeming for bronze tickets, sure, right now the only thing that you can use bronze tickets for is redeeming them for MCP points. So it may not seem super appealing. Why would I redeem 350 MCP points for 1900 MCP daily all at once? But chances are, if you have 350 bronze tickets, you were already earning 600 daily MCP points over a span of 90 days. And you've earned tens of thousands of MCP points that no one else earned, that you can now use to bid on drops for, or use them for other things that might come into the ecosystem at a later time, right? So when you look at this iterative process, I think people are trying to equate a financial component to bronze tickets, which is, I mean, that's fine. If I was in their position, I would 100% do that as well, because you guys know the YouTube content that I used to make. I would absolutely be like, hey, this is how much I'm earning. But there's also those other considerations, right? Like, well, what about how much you were also earning on top with MCP points for the daily relative? And when you start running those numbers, you start to see that it's actually balanced a lot more. And something else that people don't get an opportunity to see is the balance of the amount of OMI per collector per rank that exists in the ecosystem. So when we're looking to balance a system, it's super easy to be platinum 3 with 1 million OMI on the platform and go, hey, it's not fair that I earn this many tickets and someone who is diamond 2 who has 10 million only earned this many more bronze tickets than me. But what they're not accounting for is the dispersion that we can see internally of how many collectors are in each rank that hold each level of OMI. And what we've seen thus far is that it's actually quite healthy, right? And so it's been very interesting to kind of see all of that broken down. And not to say that tweaks and adjustments can't be made over time. Of course they can. The amount of OMI that you'll need to be eligible for max rewards in a season can fluctuate. The minimum reward threshold can fluctuate. The amount that you earn relative to each level in a season could fluctuate. And so, when it came to the airdrop as an example, because I've seen some people mention this as well, is, why would I put 2 million OMI onto the platform if I knew beforehand that only 1 million OMI would have given me access? And that's fair. That's a fair piece of feedback to provide. But before, you would have been taking those bronze tickets and you would have been crafting them. So you still would have had maybe a little bit of bronze tickets left over, but you still would have earned the same amount of daily MCP points, and you still would have earned the same amount of bronze tickets. So we looked at it internally and said, people supported us throughout this first season. The communication probably could have been better. We could have been more transparent. How can we reward them for still supporting us through this? And that solution was, well, hey, let's give them an airdrop and let's let them keep their bronze tickets, because we recognize that, hey, bronze tickets aren't super exciting right now. And if you're going to help us, if you're going to be a content creator or personality in the community, and you're going to spend 50 tickets just to show people how to do it, and now you got to wait 3 months to do more, or VV Meister is an example who wants to give a bunch away, once those transfers in this system are enabled, well, how is that fair to them? And then they don't get to craft anymore. So I think we've really struck a good balance where now everyone who participated in season 1 of OMI Rewards is going to receive a reward for doing that. And they're also going to be able to hold onto their bronze tickets and have a leg up on anyone else who participates from season 2 and beyond, because bronze tickets don't expire. So if you want to hold them on till, season 2, and then you have 700 tickets, well, what is 700 tickets at max get you, right? So there'll be different possibilities, and, people will equate a dollar amount. And I'm sure inevitably when you can buy bronze tickets with OMI, people will inevitably equate a dollar value to that as well. And, try and come up with, I'm earning, passive this. And at the end of the day, all the power to the people, but we're just looking to reward people for utilizing a system that we hoped that they would want to use anyways, because we like to think that the VV app and the OMI token are pretty awesome.
So I want to, the reason I've kept this comment up by putting cheap, because this is really important. And I found this out after conversing with you, because I was helping one of the VV fam, like right up to the wire. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, this takes some time because we got to send test transactions, all these things. And what ultimately happened is the individual I helped, they didn't get their full 10 million OMI into the VV app until after the cutoff of GMT, right? Because we were thinking of a specific time because that's when the
Yeah.
drops are. And so anyways, it's important because this individual has more than 10 million OMI in the app now. So if you're averaging it, right, then because he has more than 10 million, even if he missed like the first day, and even if it didn't count that 10 million for the first day, it's an average of 90 days. And if he has more than that 10 million, then at the end of the season, he should have, right, more than the average of 10 million OMI in the app throughout those 90 days.
So
that's very important.
Just a point of clarification on that. So if you have more than 10 million OMI on the platform, right? So let's say Randy has 20 million OMI on the platform, but he only puts it in halfway through the season. He's not going to still have an average of 10 million. I mean, on paper, he has an average of 10 million, but when it comes to seasonal rewards, you're only eligible up to a maximum of 10 million OMI, right? So anything above that isn't actually calculated for rewards. So it's not like I can just go to a whale on day 90 and go, hey, can you send me 100 million OMI for 24 hours to boost up my average? Like, it doesn't work that way. So if you have 10 million OMI, that's the maximum. If you have 100 million OMI, 10 million is still the maximum. But when features like OMI to NFT comes out, you might want to have more than the maximum on, because if you're spending OMI in the ecosystem, then you might drop below that average. So you'll start to see a lot of levels of gamification to it.
But explain to me this average then. This doesn't make sense to me, because like if I have, that would mean then that I have to have 10 million every single day, because if I drop below that at all, even one OMI, and I average that out, that's just under 10 million OMI. So I will not hit that drop. But I understood it then, like when the individual I helped, they got in like 2 hours after the deadline. So they will not hit the 10 million, even though they have more than 10 million OMI in, because it only counts to 10 million.
So just to clarify, so for season 1, you needed to have OMI in your VV web wallet in order for us to initialize the calculation for season 1 rewards. So the way that season 1 worked is if you didn't have OMI on the VV web wallet prior to January 1st, we didn't include you in the initial snapshot. So from that point on, regardless of how much you added, you weren't included, because on the initial list, you didn't exist, right? And that was the functionality that we were working under at the time. We want to get the feature set out. For season 2 and beyond, it's just a seasonal average, and it's calculated, I think it's, I don't want to say how often it is, because if I say it wrong or I say it, people may want to gamify it, but it's calculated more frequently. So people will have the opportunity to hold OMI on the platform and have it calculated through various snapshots. And I think eventually we'll likely get to a point where it's calculated in real time, and it will actually calculate and fluctuate based on the amount that you have in a given day. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that get built out. But when it comes to this individual that you're referring to, if they had OMI, let's say 2 hours before the drop on their thing, they were already eligible for seasonal rewards. If they then added up to 10 million OMI after the initial snapshot, they may be at 9,998,000 or whatever. But realistically, for season 1 specifically, it mattered the most because we were doing an airdrop specific that you needed to have the max allocation for the whole season in order to be eligible. We haven't announced any intentions of doing an airdrop or additional mechanic like that for this season. So I don't want people to stress out too much. Like if they feel as though, hey, I'm not going to get anything at all because I didn't get my OMI in prior to this, that won't be as much of an issue now. So that was specifically an issue for season 1 because of the constraints of the technology that we were working under. We've been able to kind of further flesh out and develop that system. So now there's going to be more opportunities for people to participate. But as a thank you for the people that kind of stuck with us through, well, everything for that matter, but season 1 specifically, we wanted to do something kind of unique and special for those OG supporters because, I think VV's on season 6 now, or coming on season 6. And I mean, we're on season 1 of OMI Rewards, right? So when we get to season 6 of OMI Rewards, you're going to all be able to say that you looked back and you were at season 1 OG, and you'll have an airdrop or two to be able to flex and say that you participated, right? So.
Yeah, well, I like that, and I just want to bring up that whole point, going back to the OMI, the bronze ticket rewards and the people's concern about how much OMI you had compared to how many bronze tickets. I think the overall viewpoint should be if you held 10 million on the app, you got all 3 airdrops, you got and you got bronze tickets, and you got the max daily MCP points. So that's how you were rewarded, right? And I think that some people hyper focus just on bronze tickets, and they're like, well, it's not fair that I only got 350 when these people got 150 for, you know, for their amount there, 186,000 OMI, and I had way more money on it. But when you look at the overall compensation for literally just storing your tokens on the VV app, that's pretty great. That's the utility that we've been waiting for. So I do get
safer on the VV app than on an exchange.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and to that point, so this is something that was funny, right? Because someone was like, well, like, but if we store it on VV, like, what if VV goes down? And I was like, okay, but if VV goes down, like, the OMI token's worth nothing, no matter whether it's on exchange or on VV. I'm like, I feel like nothing's like safe, even in your hard wallet. Like, I mean, that's as safe as you can technically get, I guess. But like, I feel pretty comfortable holding my OMI on the VV wallet.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, everyone should make the decision with the risk tolerance that they have the most comfortable with. So if people feel the most comfortable storing their OMI in their own, you know, secure wallet, whether it be, you know, a hot wallet like a MetaMask or a trust wallet, or they want to put it in cold storage and use, you know, a Ledger or a Trezor, they should absolutely do that. And I think, and like I said, I don't blame people, right? Because people are looking for things to talk about. Hey, let's equate, you know, a financial, you know, return or calculation to how much I put in versus how much I get out. And I really want to emphasize to you that this rewards program is not meant to compensate you for participating in the ecosystem. You're meant to participate in the ecosystem because you enjoy participating in the VV ecosystem. And as a byproduct of participating and utilizing the OMI token in the ecosystem, which will become more synonymous with the ecosystem over time, you're going to get rewarded for doing something that you would do anyways, right? So when OMI to NFT is inevitably here, and it will be here, will you use OMI to buy collectibles, right? And if the answer is no, I will not use OMI to buy collectibles, then that's fine, right? Like, you don't have to get the OMI token. You don't have to utilize it. You don't have to store it. That's your choice. But if you're going to utilize the OMI token in the platform anyways, because you want to get collectibles or whatever, utilize it for other utilities that may exist on the platform, then everything that you're being rewarded on a seasonal or daily basis is just a bonus to what you'd be doing anyways. So for me, I have a max allocation of OMI on my account. I have a max allocation of OMI on my wife's account. And I've had that max allocation for well over a year, long before I started working for Ecomi, long before I knew anything that was coming in advance, because it was just an easy place to store it. It was an easy place to park it, and it allowed me to move my funds into different places. Then I could have some on cold storage. I could have some on an exchange if I wanted to. I could have some on a MetaMask wallet, and I could put some on the VV app. And I can have it in completely different places so that if I was social engineered or hacked or lost a password or whatever else, I was protected in as many places as possible. So if I had the choice for me to either have a percentage of my OMI on the VV app and earn some rewards with it, or leave it in cold storage, I would put some on the VV app. Would I put 100% of my money on the VV app if it was the only option available to me? It's my last penny, whatever. Probably shouldn't be doing that to begin with anyways, but let's say you're in that position, put it in cold storage. And I think that this is the piece that people are missing, is like, we present options that are available to people. What people choose to do with those options are entirely up to them, but we are in no way, shape, or form encouraging people, hey, you should put your money on the VV web wallet over putting it in cold storage. Cold storage will always be a more secure solution than anything else that exists in the world.
Correct.
I personally believe that VV is very secure. I'm not worried about my funds personally, but I can only speak for me. People have to decide their own risk tolerance for themselves and then make those decisions accordingly. But I don't think anyone, and I think that this is the piece that kind of gets disconnected, is I don't think anyone should go out and buy OMI just to get rewards on the VV app and then turn around and say, hey, I went out and bought X amount of OMI and I'm only getting these rewards relative to someone else, right? Like, if you're going to have OMI in the ecosystem anyways, if you want to get OMI for your own purposes, that's your choice. It's a utility token. That's what it's available for. And you can earn rewards as a byproduct. But I think there's too much focus put on this is what I'm getting, and this is what I believe that I should be getting. And of course, we'd always love more rewards. And, I kind of brought this up the day after this came out because people just said, well, why don't you give me 20,000 MCP points a day for holding max stake of OMI, right? Well, then why would anyone collect on VV? Because if I just need $100 of OMI and then I'm a master collector, then you've completely invalidated anyone that spent time collecting on VV, right? So people don't see that balance. They don't see all the numbers and all of the calculations and formulas and balancing that goes on behind the scenes. But we've also seen recently an adjustment to the master collector ranks in VV. And, you used to be able to get 80 to 90% of master collector just by holding OMI on the platform. Like, I think the threshold was like 700 points, and you could earn 600 just from having OMI on the app, right? Does having OMI on the VV app make you a master collector? I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that would say, yes, that makes you a master collector, right? Like, no, like owning fandoms that you're passionate about, collecting things that make you happy, that you want to share with your friends, interacting in the ecosystem, like that is what makes you a collector. And I kind of put out a post about this afterwards because I was like, there's so many things that make someone a collector. But one of the things that's not going to make you a collector is OMI. OMI is meant to supercharge your experience with VV in the ecosystem. It's not meant to be a reason to collect. So I think this new balance that we have found, and realistically, if you hold a max stake of OMI, I think right now with the way that the numbers work out, you get to like Plat 3, Plat 4, possibly even Diamond 1. So you're still ahead of 70% of the collectors on VV just from holding OMI. But you shouldn't be the top 1%, right? So
we'll see what happens though as VV grows, right? Like, and there's more and more people on there that only have 1 or 2 collectibles. That 1% all of a sudden, like that point threshold drops significantly, right? So that's where I think that I'm like, people, if you're patient as VV builds out and there's more people that come on, I think a lot more people actually will be able to enter back into that 1% there. And maybe for a time, just holding max OMI might make you a master collector. But that does a couple things. It brings more and more people into the ecosystem, more and more people, more fandom, more interactions there, and it becomes a lot more fun. But I think that's something that a piece that people they don't connect the dots very well a lot of times, and sometimes we got to connect them for them. But before we get anywhere else, I have to shout out. So the Gold Dragon Club, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. I know Randy's talked about it before, but there's Golden Dragon on there. Man, I just blinked out on the artist. It'll come to me. But anyways, there's a couple
is Simone Lagno?
No.
Scott Tolson?
Yeah, Scott Tolson.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Scott Tolson. But anyway, so Turtle Golf here. And Mike, like basically they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to get you to 1,000 subs. We really enjoy your stuff, and so we're going to do this giveaway, and it's awesome. So there's a giveaway that we're going to do on the channel today.
Awesome.
And it's so the caveat I said like U.S. people only because like the shipping of all of that stuff internationally could be quite expensive. So that's what we're doing. But like honestly, for like I'm gonna do another giveaway at another point in time for like only the international subscribers as well, and kind of throw them a bone there. So I apologize to all my international followers that this one, it just economically doesn't make a lot of sense to ship. Like the costs go up pretty astronomical. And I know that because I tried to ship some Apple Vision Pros to someone, and it was the biggest nightmare of my entire freaking life. I hate the U.S. Postal Service. I hate FedEx. That's not even them. It's the government. It's shipping, like, anyways, crazy. So to make it easy, it is going to be U.S. based, unless someone out there wants to pay shipping above $50, which it might be like $1,000 to ship these things that aren't even worth that, But I just really, really appreciate the Gold Dragon Club and Turtle. I got to speak with him like personally. And there's so many cool people in the fam. So if you would please, I would love it if you could subscribe to the channel. I'm definitely going to be more active on here. Like it's work life has been crazy. Like Web 2 life has been nuts, but I just enjoy interacting with everyone and informing people. I love these discussions, Foster. It's fun, and Randy, man, I just love this family. So anyways, that's what this is about. And what we're gonna do here, we're gonna try something real quick. Okay, so I want Foster, you to pick a number between 350, and Randy, you pick a number between 350.
Like 1 and 350?
1 and 350. Yep, each of you.
Okay.
You got yours, Randy?
Oh no. Yes.
Okay. You can say them.
Okay. I wasn't sure it was like a surprise. It was like closest to the middle.
No, Foster. What is yours, Foster?
299.
299, and then Randy.
317.
317. Okay, hold on.
That's your VV logo number, isn't it?
No, my VV logo number is 468.
Oh,
or is that
okay.
458? 468. And number 41.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know what number? This is crazy. You know what number that comes out to when I add those together?
What?
616.
No way.
So
Marvel Universe confirmed.
Let's go.
I'm going to, that is amazing. I'm going to find out who subscriber number 616 is, and I will be reaching out to you. And hopefully you're in the US base, and we'll try to work something out there. So we're not going to do that on stream right now, but just for the live stream so that everyone knows, awesome. Subscriber 616. But anyways, again, I appreciate everyone for anyone who follows and subscribes and all the support. It means a lot, man. And like, I know that Randy, you know this, and Foster, you know this as well. But like, just like the comments and the DMs and stuff, like just words of support, like, hey, I really enjoyed that, or on the channel, like on that stream, like it means a lot. And honestly, it keeps you going and stuff. You're like, hey, like the people who actually appreciate my insight, and it just keeps you going. So I appreciate everyone for that support. And again, the gold shout out to the Golden Dragon Club for trying to push me over to 1,000 subs. Why 1,000 subs is important is because that's when you get monetized, right? And then people can do super chats and other things like that. Not that I do this for money, like I enjoy it and I love interacting with the fam. But yeah, so that was a little tangent, but we can get back on track here to some of these comments. I wanted to address one thing here because you had talked about there's no like pay to win, or and Solo had said like there's no free to play, which is, I mean, sure, like but that's with anything, right? Like if you buy a collectible, if you go into a comic store, like you gotta pay, right? Yeah. But what they're trying to do is not make it so that it's so unfair for the whales that they just get everything all the time. Right. And I think that was the point that Foster was trying to make.
Yeah. And I think that there'll be more mechanics introduced that really encourage engagement as a form of participation and earning rewards and things of that nature. Right. So, you know, obviously interacting in the feed and things like that has always been intended to earn you rewards. And I think, you know, we'll continue to see things like that. And I'm sure VV will look at, you know, building out a very robust master collector program. And so a lot of things, like I said, community feedback goes a long way. And I know that they take it in similarly to how we take it in on our side and look to kind of, you know, provide features based on that feedback that we're receiving, or explaining why we can't do something, even if it is good feedback, because sometimes it's inevitably the case, right? People have, you know, great ideas and in theory, they are awesome ideas, but unfortunately they don't work out. And, you know, you're talking about another token earlier today where they were just buying back the floor of the supply and, you know, burning their token or whatever. You know, in theory, that's a great idea. Like it would be awesome to remove tokens that way. Until you're classified as a security, and then it's not so awesome, right? So it's a great idea, and of course, it was an idea that we had years and years ago, right? And it's just under the current landscape and client, it's just not something that you can do. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other things that you can do, and I think we'll see as OMI to NFT kind of rolls out how some of those things might come into play. But yeah, it's not about, you know, they say when one door closes, another one opens, and I firmly believe. You know, someone asked earlier in the chat, you know, how do I feel about Veve and OMI now that I work for the company versus how I felt before? And I've spoken on this once or twice before, but I will say very quickly again, I am amazed with the passion and dedication that exists with the employees of Veve and OMI. It's been really incredible. And, you know, it's I am a very firm believer that passion and willingness to succeed will, in almost all cases, outweigh natural skill and talent. It's very hard to motivate someone who's not interested in something, even if they're good at it. But if you can find someone that's super passionate and has a willingness to learn and want to bring something to life, the sky's the limit. Because there's certain things that you can teach people, and then there's intangible things. And I really like to think that VV and OMI have a lot of intangibles when it comes to the people that they have on their teams. And it's people that really believe in the vision of the products and features that they're building and work day and night to want to build them out. And it can be tough working in a 24-hour environment. I know, I'll have meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning or midnight or whatever, because we're all over the place, right? And so, but it's been really amazing to see everyone working so hard to want to see this succeed. So that generally gives me a sense of where we headed. Is you look at the people that work for a company and you go, not necessarily what their qualifications are, because once again, you can be super qualified and just not really care, but like, where's their passion? And that comes right from the top, right? I mean, you listen to David Yu speak and you go, how could, you're not going to find people to work for someone like that who don't share that type of energy and conviction and passion. And no one will either likely ever meet that level that David has. I think a lot of us try and, strive to it in our own way. And so it's I consider it an honor. I really do, because it's not something that I ever saw myself doing, 3 years ago when I first joined this community. And I think my 3-year anniversary with VV being a collector comes up this week, actually. I think my first foray into OMI was April 8th, 2021. And my first login on VV was April 11th, 2021. So, it's been a long journey. And we're by no means where we're going to be, but I'm looking forward to building out in that direction.
I love that. So, I love that, Foster. Like, what a cool gig, man. Like, I just think about that, right? To like jump into a project that you love and you're just like a fan of it and using it all the time, and then to get that opportunity to then work for that company. That's amazing. So there's a couple questions, right? And I don't know if you can answer some of these, but
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
And here's the thing, right? That I think is so important. And this is feedback just for OMI and VV. Sometimes the response, any response is better than no response, right? As in like, hey, you know what? That's just not something that we can talk about because of legal reasons or something. But I hear you, appreciate the question. But like there has been quite a bit of confusion, and I so appreciate you responding on my tweet when I was like, FYI, OMI the NFT also means NFT to OMI. And I'm not trying to call, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but to me that seemed very logical, right? But what people were kind of like thinking is that they're like, no, the OMI will then convert to gems. And I was going to do a video on why that doesn't make sense. Like the cost that that VV would incur by doing that, right? Because if you're buying gems, well,
there was two ways to look at that, because you had the mention that they are still working with a third party. Okay, why do you need a third party if it's just going to stay in-house? And then they also had the other thing that they were developing, that OMI to gem liquidity pool, which they haven't mentioned in a while. So obviously we have a bunch of stuff coming before going that, like OMI to NFT, OMI to bronze tickets, and then accessory stuff. So I understand why they haven't mentioned that in a while. But I was one of those people that was like, oh, are we going to be able to get OMI if we sell our collectibles for that? I thought it was just, that was the third party. They were going to do something in the background. So that's where,
no, that's totally fair. So I'll give a kind of a Cole's Note, very high level overview, just to give some perspective. And obviously there'll be more context that's provided as we kind of go through this process. But yes, OMI to NFT is NFT to OMI. And the reason for that is it's the path of least resistance, right?
Yes.
So if you were hypothetically to take OMI to NFT and then take that OMI and convert it into gems, what you're doing is needing to back those gems one-to-one with some form of liquidity. Yes. So if someone buys something for $1,000 on the marketplace, you then need to turn around and market sell $1,000 worth of OMI so that you have the liquidity to fund the gems, so that if people want to withdraw the gems or utilize them in the ecosystem, they're backed by something, right? So that would be a disaster. Because if you had
OMI, right?
Yeah, well, if you had $100,000 in secondary market activity and OMI to NFT, that day you're having $100,000 of pure sell pressure on the OMI token.
Yes.
Which would just be a disaster, right? So OMI to NFT is NFT to OMI because it's a peer-to-peer marketplace. So people can, Randy lists something on the marketplace, Doctor of Stuff wants to buy it. He has OMI, Randy has the NFT. He can buy that collectible from him. There'll be some fantabulous stuff that happens in the background that no one needs to worry about or see at this moment in time, where the collectible will move over and the other person will get the OMI, and minus, any obviously applicable fees or anything that will be incurred. Bob's your uncle. OMI to NFT done. Now, when it comes to crypto pay-in and payout, which is something that I think was referenced as well, as we mentioned in our roadmap update, which we released in January, we've shifted away from crypto pay-in and payout being a priority. And the main reason for that is because OMI to NFT is going to exist in the ecosystem. So we want people to want to use OMI, right? And so if we're facilitating a bunch of crypto options, there's AML regulations that need to be abided to. There's KYC. There's a bunch of legal reasons that got taken out the first time. There's a bunch of legal stuff that needs to be overcome by that. Banks don't necessarily want to work with you because it's very hard to find banks that have those onboarding routes, right? So it's a headache, and you just don't need to deal with it when you have OMI to NFT, because OMI will be the utility token of the ecosystem, and you'll be able to use. Now, as a byproduct of that, people are inevitably going to ask, well, how do I get OMI then? Because it's a pain in the you-know-what to get OMI. We're very much aware of that, and we are working at addressing that in as many ways as possible. We've already started to see some of those ways with the BitGet and MEXC listings that we've seen in the last month. There'll likely be some other ways, whether they be, on a DEX level rather than a CEX level. Better not say that word out loud. I'll get it clipped. And potentially even routes like fiat onboarding, right? So I've seen this one-click OMI trend going on, right? So we're aware of the fact that people are looking for easier ways to acquire the OMI token. And one of our priorities for this year is to, let me check my notes again, is to increase that ability, right? So
I feel like someone said that before.
I don't know. I think we've said it once or twice. So we're aware of that, but it goes hand in hand, right? The utility and the accessibility go hand in hand, along with OMI to NFT. So if you give people a means to access the system, you give them a reason to want to access the system, and then you reward them for utilizing the system, then you have a very cohesive environment. And so that is the direction that we're headed right now. It's never as quick as any of us would like it to be, of course, but definitely, we're definitely working towards ways to onboard people into the ecosystem. So looking forward to roll those out whenever they are ready. Obviously, at the end of the year, it is a year-long priority, so I'm not promising anything tomorrow or anything like that, but we're very much moving forward in the right direction on those priorities. And of course, other priorities exist as well, other than the ones that we've highlighted, but those were the major ones that we wanted to emphasize and focus on because they're overarching, and we believe that they encompass kind of the most aspects of the project that people are looking towards. So, crypto pay in, pay out won't be needed because we'll have OMI to NFT. Hopefully, you'll have ways.
That is crypto pay in and pay out. People don't understand that. That's what that is, right? It's like, okay, I can use any of my crypto to purchase OMI, and then OMI goes in, or I can sell my NFTs, get OMI. I can then convert it back to L1 and trade it for any OMI to NFT is like, that was the other thing that I was surprised is OMI to NFT equals NFT to OMI, but then also equals crypto pay in and pay out.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, and I've seen this question come up, and I feel like it's one of those things that also goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways. Obviously, if you want to cash out in gems right now on VV, there's a 10% fee, right? Which is, it hurts, right? We've all been there. It hurts. There's no two ways about it. But when you deal with app store fees and things like that, 30% also hurts, right? So you have to offset that somehow. And so, it's not ideal. But what is ideal is having OMI in your VV web wallet. Why? Because how much money does it cost to withdraw OMI from your VV web wallet?
$0. And yes, thank you. So there was a video I was actually going to make, kind of covering a lot of these topics, like walking people through the process. And the thing is, like, I think I take it for granted sometimes, just like understanding that process, right? If people don't really deal in crypto, like they're not aware, like that's not just something that, on their mind or so I get that. But so these conversations are so important. Just to clarify that, and it'll be great because now I can point people back to this discussion. But I like how you said that you guys are working on kind of some procedures or policies of like establishing some of these FAQs and like providing like this information on all of the platforms so that people don't have to listen, please, people, always watch my channel. You're going to get these questions, you're going to get these answers. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of people who don't watch this channel or other channels, or, and that information being combined in like one resource where everyone knows this is the official channel of communication. Very helpful. And to that point, here is a follow-up on a question about land. And I know that there has been, and maybe you can speak on this, maybe you can't, but in the past, right, one of the OMI rewards and the staking rewards was like, you're going to get this golden ticket, right? Which that's kind of the first question is, are we getting like the silver and gold tickets still potentially? And then part of that was like, if you hold this gold ticket, you're going to get land. And then I know that Dan had spoken on, shout out to Will and Mr. V, that podcast where they interviewed Dan, where he was kind of like the whole land thing kind of called into question, like, is that NFT a security? And there's some questions around that. So do we create this where maybe it's just like a condo or like a non-land space? So I don't know. I don't know what you can answer with this, if anything. And if you can't, that's fine. But like any sort of update on land or what's happening with specifically OMI rewards that was talked about in the past.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously in our previous roadmap, OMI rewards was kind of encompassed by a lot of things. A lot of those things are still on our internal roadmap, even if they're not necessarily being discussed otherwise. So how that will play out, we'll probably save that for when we get a little bit closer to things like that. Obviously, we're still waiting on public access for the VVverse and things of that nature, but we're very much moving in that direction. And so what that looks like when we get to that point, we'll have to wait and see. But things like tickets, obviously we've seen the bronze. Everyone knows at the Olympics you get 3 medals, so we'll see how that rolls out and what kind of utility and features we can add. But yeah, it's been a very interesting journey to navigate the legal and regulatory minefield that does exist. Yes. Obviously, you referenced that as well when it comes to land as well. So. It's almost crazy. And I mean, you guys can maybe relate to it, especially you doctor stuff, because you keep up with it a little bit more in the US. I'm in Canada, so I'm maybe a little bit more removed from it. Obviously, I deal with it as a byproduct of the role that I'm in, but it's it's wild. It's wild out there. And we really can't afford to be in a position where we ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So we have to also be mindful. And I think one thing that people don't necessarily consider is that we have a user base that's global. So if you want to roll out a feature, you certainly could, but if it's a feature that you then need to exclude a large proportion of your user base, is it a feature that you want to roll out? Right. Yeah. And so these are the questions you need to ask yourself, because, and this is just purely hypothetical. I'm just throwing it out there, right? If it was determined tomorrow that you could do land sales, but it could not be to US users. And U.S. users can maybe buy it in the secondary market because it's peer-to-peer, but they could not participate in the primary market, right? Would you guys be like, "Oh, sure, let's do it"?
Yeah.
Right?
YOLO.
Or would you be like, maybe, right?
Nope, let's do it. Let's do it. Heck the US.
You know what? I asked the wrong person. Clearly, I asked the wrong person.
You
But you
stop
know
it
what?
right now.
Like these are the considerations that need to happen, and it's the same thing that we have to ask ourselves. And I'll give you another example that's probably more realistic than the one I just gave. We announced BitGet 3 weeks ago, maybe. MEXC we announced yesterday or the day before. Every time I receive a comment about that exchange that, and I don't want to say isn't positive because it's valid concern. The main criticism that I get is it's not accessible in the US, right? So we have two options available to us, right? Is option number one, you stop rolling out exchanges until you get one that's accessible in the US, right?
Right.
That's the first option.
Right.
Because then people will just be happy whenever one comes, right? Or the second option is you continue to roll out accessibility features as best as you can within the confines of what you're working with to try and help out as much of the community as you can, and then continue to work on other features and options for everyone to try and make things accessible for everyone as best as you can, right? So like there's kind of two different options. And so yes, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for me living in Ontario because Ontario shares a lot of the same aversions to crypto that the US regulators share. We can't use Binance here. Coinbase, I think just today signed a deal with the Canadian government, which is amazing, right? But a lot of exchanges I can't use here in Ontario, right? They're just simply not available. And it is frustrating. You know, I see people in Europe or different places around the world that have access to these things, and I go, oh, darn, I would love to have access to this. But I'm not sitting here going, oh, well, they shouldn't have access to it because I don't, right? Like if one of us wins, we all win, right? And so the idea is there's an entire world of people out there. India's got like 1.8 billion people. China's got another 1.5 billion people. I would love to be able to provide 50 accessibility options to all of the 330 million people that live in the US. But I'm not just going to stop everything that we're doing until that's an option, right? Like these things are still being pursued. We're still exploring as many options as is possible. Trust me, I'm working way, way harder than I ever thought was possible and putting in way more hours than I am even remotely being compensated for. But I do it because I want to see us all win, right? Like that's the reality at the end of the day. I was an OMI homie long before I was the community manager for Eco. And that's not going to change. Just because the title on the door is different doesn't change the person that I've inherently been. I love this community. And you guys have seen me at events. You guys know the person that I am. I love this community. And I would do anything that I could to see it succeed. And I do not want to see anyone feel that they need to be excluded or not be provided with as many options as possible. There's just different ways that you have to go about providing access to different people. And that's just the reality, whether people want to hear it or not, whether it's frustrating to have to say or not. Some places just are easier to provide access to than others. Some people are just easier to provide access to than others. And if you live in a country that is embargoed by the US and you can't have access, like there's certain things that are just simply out of our control. But the things that are in our control, we're working absolutely as hard as we can to provide access in as many ways as possible for people so that they don't have to ask all of these one questions anymore, because my life will be absolutely complete when I no longer have to be asked some of these one questions.
But you know what? They'll just be new one questions.
There will be. There will inevitably always be one questions. And the goalposts will always move. But you know what? I think the sign that you're in a really awesome project with a lot of really awesome people is that even the people that aren't happy are still taking the time to voice their opinion, right?
Yeah.
And I've never been a part of something that I wasn't happy or didn't care about, where I felt the need to stick around and have to deal with all the ups and downs, right? I just left. I just went, hey, this is not for me. I'm going to move on, right? I wouldn't be there every day commenting on things, asking when this, or complaining that. And a lot of the things, and I've said it before, a lot of the things that people bring up that people get called fudders for are very valid concerns. True. I think a lot of the times the way that people bring them up probably is what gives them that label, because instead of just being like, hey, I'm curious about this, they go, F this, blah, 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 that. Right? And then people just go, okay, well, I'm not listening to you anymore. But a lot of the times that people bring up valid concerns, they're very valid, right? And I would love to be able to provide access and context and all that stuff. But a lot of the people that bring up feedback, I get to pass along. And a lot of the times it's the people that don't necessarily agree with me that have the best feedback. Because if you're in an echo chamber and everyone just agrees with everything that you say, you're not really getting any new information or feedback to be able to develop an informed opinion. So when people go, hey, have you considered this? I can either go, well, no, we can't do this. And the reason we can't do this is X, Y, Z. Or I go, actually, that's not a terrible idea. I hadn't considered that yet. And then I get it passed on. And then I either get told, hey, we can't do this because of X, Y, Z. Or, hey, you know what? Let's consider looking into this further. So it's really cool to watch the community be able to grow the project as much as the project grows with the community.
Yeah.
A WEN logo. Yeah, that would be
wait, I got and a soon logo. A WEN and a soon.
That would, you know what? I could see that. I could see those being accessories in the VV verse. I could totally see those. I could totally see those being accessories.
You know, and here's my thing. I guess when I was saying facts about that, right? There is a way. First of all, there is always a way to address things professionally, right? Like there are times like, look, I don't know what happened, but on the last X-Men 97, I paid for 5 comics. I only got 2. It charged me. Somehow I got some other comics. I don't know what happened. And I'm like, I did not buy those comics. Like that's still a thing. And like, I'll submit a ticket for it. Right. And like these things happen. And, but like, I just think about like people, put yourself in your own shoes. If someone was coming to you and talking to you and however you're talking to VV, right, and complaining, like, how would you react? How would you want things to be? And honey attracts more bees than vinegar is all I have to say. Right. And, but there is that. And what happens is when people spit out that vinegar, then a lot of people they reject that valid concern and they do label them a futter. But I have never called anyone, and I always say this, I'm like, please continue to bring up valid concerns. Bring them up because that's how the team, they listen, they hear that, and sometimes they don't correct that, and that's a decision. And everyone at any point in time always has the choice to walk away. If they're not happy with whatever product, and it's not just VV, anything like that, where they're just like, hey, this is what I expect and this is what I want, and they're not willing to do that. Okay, well, but now you know, and you can be a grown up and make your decision whether you want to stay or not. But you know, like, but so I really appreciate the people who are like, hey, there's this issue. Like one of the ones, and this is an FYI for the team, like I still can't tell sometimes when my MCP points have been taken on a bid or not. Because like I wasn't like, I'm like, oh, I have around this much, but then I was like, wait, did they take them or did they? I don't remember. You know, like I'm like, I don't know. So that would be useful. Is like whether it's like a notification being like, hey, this many was subtracted, or like a tracking thing, little helps like that. But some of the other things that I'm really excited for, and I know there's a lot more important things to be built out. But this is what I get excited for is being able to make offers to people. Right? Just message and saying, hey, I noticed that you have this. Okay, here's a perfect example. So my very first NFT, I bought 3 Todd McFarlanes from the store, right? $15.98, $15.99, and $1,600. I kept $1,600 because it was a nice round number.
Yeah.
But I freaking want that $15.98 back because that was my first NFT that I ever bought. And it's not listed on the market. I don't know who has it. You know, like I would love to just now look, if they're going to ask some astronomical price, like whatever, right? But if I'm like, hey, would you want to sell this for the floor or above the floor so that you could buy something else? You know, because this has meaning to me. Like those type of things, I'm looking forward to. Like there's just so much that will be able to be implemented in the future that just makes this collecting app even more of a collector's app. And because I see people like on Twitter and I'm retweeting people with like, I'm looking for this number. I'm looking for this number. And sorry, this was a complete tangent, but like, I'm so appreciative of what this project has brought. Like it's made me a collector that I never thought. Truly, if you had asked me 3 years ago, like, are you going to go into a store and buy a comic? I'd be like, no. Like I bought comics as a kid, I'm kind of over that phase. And now I'm like going in. I like ordered on eBay because I couldn't hit my comic shop in time to get the X-Men 97, like the variants, you know what I mean? And I'm like giddy little school kid, because that hit that nostalgia, the X-Men 97 has hit that nostalgia so much for me, you know? And I'm like, this is fun, man. Like, this is the part that, yes, there's frustrations and there's delays and there's promises that haven't been completed yet, or, you know, but at the end of the day, like, has this brought more joy into my life? And I'm like, absolutely. And the community that I've met, oh man, super grateful to be here. I am bullish on the OMI token, and I'm bullish on these rewards, man. And I appreciate Foster. You know, you got a lot of crap and you take a lot of heat, and the whole VV and the Komi team do all the time. But you know what? So does Bored Ape. Like, it's funny, guys. Like, everyone sits there, and I think that they get so focused on like the VV community. I'm like, you go to like the Bored Ape and just type in Bored Ape, and like the FUD around Bored Ape right now is like, it's bad, right? Mutant apes are like down super low. I'm talking about NFT NYC, right? And one guy literally just today was like, you know, I always like wanted a mutant ape, and he's like, I'm so glad I didn't buy that. You know, like, it's way down, and a lot of these emotions are tied to price. We see this with like OMI, and like I've seen it even in the comments. They're just like, why is OMI going down? A lot of my other tokens have 2x'd. And look, a couple things. Ecomi has no power to dictate what the market price of the token is, but all they can do is add the utility. And my thing is if you add the utility and that desirability, like, people just want it for the utility, like, that will like effectively increase the price because the demand has gone up, right? And so, like, I just love that the Komi team is focused on building out this utility, that people are going to want that. And that one-click OMI, and I've been saying this from the very get-go, is the ability to purchase OMI on the app with a credit card will be an absolute game changer. It will be a game changer because of human psychology. And you're trying not to smile, Foster, but I'm trying to, like, hold on just a second. I like zoom.
I was just reading the comment section.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. But anyways,
stuff.
The ability to purchase.
Digital Verse said that someone has your Todd, and that's really awesome.
Someone has your what?
Someone has your Todd. You're 1598.
Someone does have my Todd.
That's why I was smiling.
Yeah,
Wait a second.
O'Kennel?
Austin looks to have your Todd.
Okay. You could look it up on Stacker, so he might have just done that.
Oh, yeah, I haven't done that. That's true. I could have looked it up on Stacker. Anyways, so back to that's a nice little distraction there, Foster. Go ahead and cover your face. But like, OMI, the ability to purchase OMI, L2 OMI on the app will be a game changer. It's just psychologically. I do this all the time with gems, where Captain America.
This was a really bad thing to hide my face behind, actually.
It's so funny, but regardless, like, I mean, just the psychological impact of being able to use that OMI to buy these NFTs and what the utility is there, or I'm going to buy, I want the OMI, I want to buy more bronze tickets. It's going to be a game changer for the demand on the token, because people don't care about the price. They just care about the utility that token brings. And we really haven't seen that very much in the entire crypto space. Truly, like, we see in games, like, a little bit, like games are coming out and they're trying to use this token, but we have not seen like this utility that OMI is going to bring into the ecosystem. And that's what I'm really excited for that, right? And like you said, like, it's this synergistic, and it's the synergy, and it's very complex to build together, because there are the regulatory concerns, and like, how does this impact the users? We want to make sure that whales aren't overly compensated, all of these things. But I just want to say thanks. And there's so many people in the audience here, right, in the comments, that are thanking you, Foster, and the whole team, guys. Like, you take a lot of crap from people in that space, and man, mentally, like, that takes a toll. But just know that there are people like us who are passionate about this project, and we are extremely grateful for all of the hard work, the unpaid work that you continue to do, even as a paid employee for it, right, to build this out. Very grateful. So that's my little spiel. Sorry about that.
Thank you, man. No, I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, it's you know, I knew what I was getting myself into when I took the role, and you know, I want to reiterate that if I didn't believe that we were going to make any progress, I wouldn't have taken the job, right? Like, I knew what I was getting myself into. In some ways, I maybe got thrown into the deep end a little bit, because I mean, this community is super passionate, and you know, there's always going to be the highest of highs and as well as the lowest of lows. But For me, it's just it's a step in direction that we're heading. Is
that what
so someone in the chat sent me a picture that made me laugh. They will remain nameless for their own protection. Sure. Yeah, it's I've said this a couple times. I said it on Around the Akomiverse. I think I've said it twice there actually, and I've never said it anywhere other than there. But 2023 was really a rebuilding year, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And I feel like we've gotten over a lot of those humps now. And I feel like we're really starting to fire on all cylinders. And that doesn't obviously mean that things are going to start rolling out on a weekly basis or anything like that. But it means that the goals that we've defined for ourselves are reasonable, they're achievable, and we're taking the steps that we need to take in order to deliver on them. So I'm very much looking forward to, on a very serious note, answering a lot of the when questions from the community, because they're very valid. And yes, I'm very much aware that the goalposts will inevitably move on to the next whatever it's going to be once they arrive. But I would still argue that the project that had no Marvel or Disney or Payout or IMX or OMI Rewards or MCP is a much better project than the project that we had a few years ago. Doesn't necessarily mean that we've moved as quickly as we'd have liked to have moved. Well, we're inevitably moving in the right direction. And I don't think that there's anyone that can look at us with a straight face now and say they're not moving in the right direction. And I think that for me is the biggest takeaway that I have, is I'm not going to sit here and sell anyone a bag of goods and pretend as though, oh, well, the job is done. We got a couple of exchanges, oh, you got bronze tickets. It's cool. Right? Like, no, this is the very beginning, but you can't say that it's not coming anymore. Right? Like, you can't say that we're not moving in that direction. You can't say that exchanges and accessibility are not a priority for us. You can't say that token utility are not a priority for us anymore. You could say that you want more, and you're always going to say that you want more.
Yeah.
But we're still going to be heading in that direction. So that for me is the biggest takeaway. And I always look at it as, and I tell the people internally, like, what is our manageable win, right? Because there's going to always be a lot of wins, but what are the wins? And so for me, in the last 24 hours, the win was, well, hey, it's MEXC, right? But I've known about MEXC for more than 24 hours. So that wasn't a win for me, right? That was a win for the community, which is fantastic. But my wins have already been accounted for, right? So I can sit here with a smiley face and go, it's coming, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? But the wins will inevitably be when they're here. And, we don't count our blessings before they hatch. Once they're here, we'll be better off for whatever those wins are. But keep giving your feedback. And, I put out a tweet, I want to say a week or two ago, that maybe got misconstrued a little bit, where I was planning to host like a community Twitter space. And a lot of people just jumped down my throats like, oh my God, you need ideas from us? Like, you haven't been working on anything? And it's like, no, guys, like, this was just me. Maybe I could have phrased it better, but this was just me trying to be like, hey, I want to give an impromptu community update. Like, let's go over some things. And I probably could have phrased it better. So that's on me. Yeah, there's just so much. And I mean, I could sit here all night and talk about, all of the exciting things. And inevitably, the day that I don't have to bite my tongue anymore is going to be a great day. But, the community, and really you said it better than anyone, Dr. Seth, the community, the ones that are out there supporting us give us more motivation than you could ever possibly know. Right. And it may feel sometimes like when you're on social media that the loudest voices, especially when maybe things aren't going as well as people would like, are the dissenting voices. But at the end of the day, there are equally as many, if not way more, silent majority who are rooting us on behind the scenes, who are reaching out to us individually, letting us know that they believe. They're in the chat right now, letting us know. And if you read back and you actually read 95% of the comments right now, people are feeling energized. They're feeling the momentum shift. They're feeling like we're moving in that right direction, because these comments aren't being screened. They're not being filtered. Like you're seeing everyone is excited, right? And so I like to think of it as a cautious optimism as we move forward. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because then we're over-promising and under-delivering. But at the end of the day, I like that people can wake up on any given day and go, wow, today we have a new OMI utility feature. Wow, today we have a new exchange. And inevitably people are going to wake up and continue to get to feel those types of things, which is a very new feeling for us, right? Because it's been quite a while since we've been at that point. But that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me up in the morning is I know when I wake up on that day and go, today's the day, boys and girls, they're going to feel it. And then I just see those comments coming in, right? And and then I share them with the team, and it just, re-energizes them as well, because I get to celebrate all of the wins, right? People go, oh, great job, Foster. You did. And like, what did I do? I just announced it, right? Like, we have a group of amazing people working behind the scenes to make all these, like, I didn't build out the bronze ticket system, right? Like, I'm not there coding OMI to NFT as we speak. Like, that's not me. I get the credit for it, but it's not. There's so many amazing people that deserve a ton of credit for everything that they're building. And hopefully we get the opportunity to shine a light on them a little bit more as things start to progress a little further. And I hope that we can move in that direction.
I love that. I want to address, so Sanjay saying, hey, we need a big, somewhat safer US-based exchange. I want to touch on this a little bit. Like, the reason, Sanjay, you're saying like a US-based exchange is for US people to access the token. But that's where I think like the one-click OMI, the ability with the credit card to just purchase OMI on the app gets rid of that need. It really does, And then from there, like if people just want OMI so that they can use the utility, that addresses that. Now, if you want to be able to, trade it on the exchange, okay, that's a different problem. And people can learn, because once they sell their NFTs for OMI, like they can learn that process and then use a decentralized exchange. Like there is accessibility to the token. The other thing I want to address, because I've heard some people saying, hey, with MEXC, you can use a VPN if you're in the US, right? And just say that you're in Colombia or some other, other New Zealand even, right? And access that, which is true. You can do that, but I would just warn people that it is technically against the terms of service. So if you send your money over to this exchange and they identify that you're actually US based and you can't prove that you're not US based, your account gets locked and all that money is locked up. And
yes.
Until you can then prove that you're not a US resident. I don't know how you're going to do that. Well, I do know how you could do that, and you could do it legally. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyways,
it's not a conversation for me to be a part of. Let's put it that way.
But honestly, like for most people, guys, like MEXC is a win. It's another exchange. It's another because a lot of different people in different parts of the world use different exchanges, right? And so people are like, oh, well, that's like not as big of an exchange. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still highly used. And it's actually used by a lot of people in this region that don't use one of the larger exchanges. Like this is the one. So it does give additional like accessibility to the token to a lot of or visibility of the token to a lot more people that way. So those are wins.
I think when I was writing the article for it, I think MEXC had like 13th highest spot trading volume in the world out of every exchange that existed, which I mean, yeah, it's not top 3 or anything, but I remember like reading him and a couple of people responded to me on the Discord. They're like, I've never even heard of this exchange before. And I'm like, and then someone mentioned, well, why don't we get listed on Binance US? And I'm like, that's a valid option, right? And I looked at Binance US's 24-hour trading volume, and it was $15 million. And I'm like, okay, like, sure, right? But like, MEXC had 1.6 billion, right? And so like, granted, it's not a legally accessible option to US residents, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell people that they should use a VPN because, like you said, if you get caught, you're going to be in some doo-doo, right? I would not suggest that as an option. Can you do it? Yes. Should you do it? No. Right? And you're going to make your own decisions with that.
So only the
Coinbase.
Go ahead.
is in an active lawsuit with the SEC right now, where they're basically alleging that they've been selling unregistered securities. Kraken got sued like $30 million by the SEC for selling unregistered securities. Binance got sued $4.3 billion and no longer operates in the US. Crypto.com seems to be the only one that hasn't been sued into oblivion as of yet, which is cool, right? Like, that's great. I agree that there needs to be more accessibility options for US users, but it's not as simple as just getting listed on a US exchange, because once again, you get listed on a US exchange and then the SEC could go and investigate them and pull the plug on everything, and then you become a byproduct of that issue, right? So I would love to see US exchange listings. And I'm not saying that US exchange listings are never going to come, or not that they're already not coming. But at the end of the day, we're going to continue to roll out the exchanges that we have available to us and that we've made agreements with and that we can do these things with at this given time. We're not just going to pump the brakes because US residents want US exchanges, because there's different options than just being listed on one of the 3 or 4 US exchanges that currently operate, that may or may not operate legally, that are currently being investigated by the SEC and could pose issues, right? There's decentralized exchanges. Anyone can use Uniswap. The Uniswap wallet, the OMI to Ethereum pairing, has like $300,000 to $400,000 in 24-hour trading volume, right? Very easy to set up. You know, yes, it sucks that you have to pay the layer 1 ETH fees. So we're looking at other options available to us with DEXs. We're looking at layer 2 options. We're looking at fiat onboarding options, right? Like, there's going to be a ton of options. Now, I think a lot of times, and this isn't specific to Sanjay, because I know Sanjay's a smart guy and he gets it, but I think a lot of times when people say, because I'll literally have people be like, oh, I live in the US and I want more access. When Binance, bro? And I'm like, okay, but you can't even use Binance. So like, I think that the conversation gets a little convoluted, where people aren't asking for Coinbase or Binance for accessibility. They're asking for it because they think it's going to pump their banks, right? Yeah. Which, once again, and as Dr. Stuff already mentioned, like, we're providing utility features for the token. We're providing accessibility for the token. You're never going to see us come outright and be like, hey, we're going to do X, Y, Z to try and inflate any values of anything, because that is the quickest red flag to basically decimating your token and project overnight, right? And I will also see people say, well, other projects do it. Okay, but that's not a good reason to do it. Just because other projects do something wrong doesn't mean you should do it just because. Like, that's not a viable business strategy, especially when you work with real world partners and you work with licensors that operate in jurisdictions where they need to be legally and regulatory compliant. How quickly is Disney going to be like, oh, cool, you're just doing whatever you want with this OMI token thing, and then you want us to allow you to use it with our collectibles? Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, there's other considerations that need to be taken into account. And it's frustrating for me, just like it's frustrating for everyone else, that we don't have those accessibility options. But it doesn't mean that just because we don't have 1 or 2 accessibility options that people are asking for, that we're not working on a ton of other ways that you're going to be able to access the token. And it doesn't mean that those other things that haven't come yet are completely off the table. It just means that you have to take different approaches to making sure that when you're rolling out a feature set like that you're doing it in a manner where you could be comfortable upon a reasonable balance of probabilities that you're rolling it out in a legal and regulatory compliant manner. And we're never going to, just like Disney doesn't have to do the first mover thing where they, you know, they're going to wait and see how other people do it. And hey, how does this work out, right? We're not just going to do it and hope it works out, because we don't want to be the library token. We don't want to be XRP who ends up in a 2-year legal battle with, you know, it's just not
hundreds of millions of dollars.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just not the position that we're in where we feel like we need to do that. But we do feel like we need to provide more accessibility options for all users. And of course, that includes our US user base. The BitForex thing has been a terrible thing. It's not something that we ever obviously foresaw happening. I don't think anyone in the community foresaw it happening, and it left a huge hole. And we're aware of that, right? The BitGet exchange listing was already coming when this happened, right? And so then we announced to people, well, what about the US? Well, like we can't just on a dime flip and change everything that we're doing. A lot of these things have already, and we heard David, you talking about it tonight with VV Comics, right? Like 15-month process to get things up and running for something like that. Like, a lot of these things are not just quick and easy. And, you know, people will say, well, a meme coin got listed. Okay, but a meme coin in and of itself, that is the utility of that token. It is a meme. It does not have any regulatory concerns because it doesn't provide any real world value or utility. That is just what it is, right? So we're an actual business, an actual company that has actual people that expect us. We have an actual docs team. I have my real name on the screen. I'm not Shiba Inu 247 who's got like a dog PFP and wearing a mask while I'm talking to people, right? Yeah. Like there's real accountability that goes into making these decisions. And so we have to take the extra time to make sure that we do them the right way. It doesn't mean that it's not going to get done. It just means that we're operating in real world timeframes. We're not necessarily operating in the crypto timeframe that people hope that we will, but we're also very cognizant and aware of the fact that crypto timeframes do exist. We're aware of the halving coming later this month. Like, we're not completely naive and blind to these things, right? But at the end of the day, certain things have to roll out in certain ways, and then other things you won't even see coming, and then they'll just be here, and then we'll be better off for them.
You're aware of the halving of Bitcoin? What?
Bitcoin. Yeah. That's a crypto thing, right? That's that crypto thing?
No, I thought it was a credit card. Like,
okay, yeah.
So, and this is my thing, that I think that, I mean, you're going to get a wide spectrum of individuals and their experience in crypto, and I think that you make a great point. And this is funny because I just talked about this with the group. So there was a panel discussion that was supposed to happen, and the speakers didn't show up, and so like, yeah, it was really interesting. And so then like this guy just came up, and like it was fun. We just like had this chat of like a bunch of like NFT and crypto degens talking about like, and they're like, you know, what bags are you holding, like NFTs and stuff, and we got into the meme coins, right? We're talking about Solana meme coins that are pumping and all these things. And one of the things that this guy said, and he's like, one of the things that I love the most about meme coins is that like, there is no utility, there's no promise. Everyone knows what they're getting into. It's just gambling, really, right? And you're trying to be first before someone else so that you can.
It's 100% greater fool theory. That's all that it is.
It is greater fool theory. You can dump it on someone else and pump those bags, right? And I'm like, yeah, okay, and that's what some of the people want. But when people try to compare a meme coin to, like you said, a real world business with ties to some of the biggest IP in the entire world, the level of compliance that you have to have is, it's just like, it's like not even like apples and oranges. It's like apples to I can't even think of something so different from apples, like whatever that is, just crazy. And but again, that's that lack of education, and that's why I have this channel. I love having these conversations and trying to just educate people in this space. And look, they can still be upset, and they can say, hey, you know, like the OMI token's not pumping like I want. Okay, like that's fine. Like there are meme coins that maybe you can throw $100 in, and maybe that turns into $20,000. Like, but that's not what OMI is, right? And that's what this project is. This project is trying to build out this utility. Yes, there are things in their initial roadmap that they said that they wanted to do when the space wasn't as regulated, but now it is. Now it is more regulated. And one of my and this is the nerd in me. One of the talks that I'm looking forward to the most actually tomorrow is from Commissioner Hester Pierce of the SEC. She's talking about NFTs in the Howey test, and I am extremely interested to hear her take on those things. And I've actually listened to a couple talks about the Dapper Labs lawsuit, right, and how that happened, and just trying to better understand that space so that I can inform people of, hey, like here's what's coming down, and then also kind of combat some of the maybe the people who speak very eloquently or write very eloquently, but then their arguments are founded on not so stable a foundation, and having to argue against that and point out actual facts on certain things with that. But continuing to educate myself on that. But I'm so grateful for a project here. And this is what I look like for me, OMI. People are like, hey, is this going to catch the bull run? I think that all bull runs, like a rising tide lifts all boats. But at the end of the day, what I do believe is that OMI will be here in the next 5 years and longer. Right. And so for me, like the utility of that token and me holding on to that token, for me, it's not going to zero, because regardless of the price, there will be a utility to it. And that's very important for me. Right. When I look at all of these other projects, a lot of my other projects that I'm in, I'm just like, this is like, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I'm going to make some money off it. And this is
you're going to hopefully make some money off of it.
True. True. That's true. There's an assumption built in there. But anyways, again, like that's one thing that like when I told my friend, he's like, "What token are you most bullish on?" This was 3 years ago. I just said, well, 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. But I was like, the OMI token, and here's why. And I was like, but honestly, like, don't talk to me about price or anything like that. Come back to me in 3 to 5 years, and we'll talk about it and see how this company is built out, and the utility of this token. Because once that utility is there, there will be people who just want that, and you'll be able to sell it to those people at whatever price. But like, there will be a demand for it. And I was like, I can't say that about anything else but Bitcoin. Honestly, at this point, where like I feel that sure that this is probably going to be around in 5 years, Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? But I'm like, but this is tied to all this major IP, and there'll be a use case for it as opposed to just like a store of value. So, anyways, that's my little rant on that. But let's get to some of these. Apples to lasagna. Thank you, Pudding Cheeks. Apple to lasagna. It's getting pretty late here, man, for me.
I got to go give my daughter her evening bottle here in a couple minutes. So if you guys have any final questions to wrap it up,
Foster, I feel like, man, this is look. We gotta put that out there. Why not? Why not?
Foster, I'll give you a choice of a question. Yeah, definitely, Matt. It will be a work-related question or a human-related question. Which one would you prefer?
Oh, I feel like this is truth or dare. How about you ask me both questions, and then I'll decide which one I want to answer.
Okay. All right. So the human one would be, as I'm sure you now get a lot more messages and notifications and inquiries and hate and despair more than I do. And it seems to me no matter how many times you explain it, people just keep asking the same stupid questions, and it's the same people. Has this job affected your view on humanity, on how selfish, stupid, and otherwise just has it affected it, on how stupid people are? And the work-related one would be, you mentioned before that exchanges, multiple are coming. Could we see that future exchanges being rolled out at a commensurate rate that they have been the last 2 months?
So to answer your first question, I don't think that it's necessarily that there's stupid people, right? I think that there's people that have taken the opportunity to educate themselves and learn about what it is that we're trying to build out, and that have a certain level of experience in the real world that they're willing to give a certain amount of leeway and patience to us for having to adapt and change to an ever-changing regulatory and legal environment. And I think that a lot of the times I find when I interact with people, if they've ran their own business before, or they're, up to date on regulations or understand how enforcement works or anything like that, they get it. And they'll look at it and go, and I'll use an example, and people go, oh my God, he's comparing, OMI to Tesla. I'm not comparing OMI to Tesla, but as an example, a company like Tesla that's aimed towards building autonomous vehicles for like 7 years. Like, where's their robot taxi fleet that they promised in 2018, right? And then 2019, and then 2020. Like, you can have your best laid intentions completely beat down by just not being able to develop a certain technology, or having to contend with regulations, or not having enough money, or not having the right people, or whatever, right? There's a million reasons why something might not go right, but you don't get to see any of that. You either just see if it goes right or if it goes wrong. So I think that a lot of the times when I'm getting feedback from people that is maybe less desirable, they either don't understand the concept, which is okay. Sometimes you just have to explain it differently to them, or they're not really asking that question, right? So they're not really asking when this or when that or whatever. They're just looking at an amount of money that they put in something that is now either not grown or is worth less than what it was. And then they attribute some blame to the company or to you for that, which is fine. I mean, that's people's right to do that, and that's their choice at the end of the day. I don't lose too much sleep over it. One of my biggest issues when I first joined the community as a community member is I felt the obligation to respond to absolutely everyone. And if I didn't agree with your opinion or whatever, I would have to present you with mine, right? And I had to get my word in and whatever. At this point, I'm at the point now where I simply just don't respond to people that are berating or belittling the community, the project, or the team, or myself, because we just have better ways that we can utilize our time, right? And so I can either spend all of my time justifying things, or I can spend my time working on delivering the things that people want, right? And I would be far more concerned if I had to listen to someone tell me something 20 times a day than I would be knowing that they're working hard on it and then showing the results that they're delivering on it. And that's why I've said actions will always speak louder than words. Because like I said, I can sit here for 12 hours and tell you guys everything that you want to hear, but it doesn't change the fact that we need to deliver on the things that we're working towards. And so I think we've probably lost a lot of the good grace that we've had with the average consumer because it took us so long to deliver on things. But I do believe to that same extent that once we deliver on those things, a lot of those people will come back. And I know some people won't come back, and that's fine. We'll have a lot of new people that come in as well. But anyone that gets to the point of where we're going won't sit here and go, oh, do you remember how 2 years ago, how we didn't have, OMI was on GoChain? Oh my God. You remember that? Right? Like, no one's going to sit here and do that. Like, no one's going to care, right? Like, oh, could you remember when you couldn't cash out on VV back in 2021? Wild. Like, no one's going to care, right? Whether you were here or not, no one is going to be talking about that. Once OMI to NFT is here, is anyone going to sit here and go, oh my God, remember the time when you couldn't use OMI to buy NFTs? No, because it's just going to be here. And that will be the prevailing narrative. And the next 100,000, a million people that come into the project aren't going to notice any difference because they're not going to know any different, right? So for me, I haven't lost faith in humanity. I've just become more aware of the realities behind the things that people say. And that's why I say, like, if you have something to say, just say it. Like, don't beat around the bush with me, right? Like, if you're upset because your bag's not bumping, just tell me you're upset because your bag's not bumping. Because then I can have a legitimate, honest conversation with you, right? But if you're just going to, you're saying this, you're saying that, and it's like, okay, but what are you actually trying to say? Because I've already answered this 4 times with you. So, like, this is not really what we're talking about. And then once you kind of figure that out, you get to a median ground. And I think most people are receptive when you're straight up with them. You're like, listen. Because, like I said, I'm not here to sell anyone a bag of goods. We're not where we want to be either. But I believe now the difference is unlike 2 years ago, and over the last 2 years, I should say, we're moving in that right direction. And I have something where I can be like, hey, look, hey, you said we were never going to lift on exchanges again. Well, here's 2 exchanges. Hey, you said OMI was never going to have utility. Well, here's some utility, right? Like, I have some examples now, but it doesn't mean that we're where we want to be. So that's the first question. And then the second question.
You don't have to answer the second question.
No. Accessibility is really important to us, right? And so when I first joined the project back in November, one of the things that I identified very quickly is there was a lot of really great work that was going on behind the scenes, but there was a lot of disconnect between what was being communicated. And I think, and all of us were here in 2021, we really took for granted the monthly AMAs, the constant flow of information that was coming. But the problem is when you have a constant flow of information at a high level, but you're not really explaining anything, and then delays happen or changes occur and you have to pivot for legal or regulatory reasons, or things in the back end break down and you have to focus on those, then it's just a bunch of unfulfilled promises and delays and things like that. And people don't really, So for me, I wanted to have kind of a living document where I could point people to when they say, what are your priorities? Like, what are you working on, right? And like, what is this OMI token ever going to do? And so for me, it was really important to get something out where we could point people to and say, hey, you want to know kind of the overarching themes of what our goals are and not have to go into a too high level of defining it, right? Like, if you look at what accessibility was, it's not defined in the article, right? Like, I've spoken on it. I've told you, like, central exchanges, decentralized exchanges, it's fiat on-ramps, it's a bunch of things, but it's not defined in the article. It's just, hey, we want people to be able to access the token, because accessibility to you and what's a priority to you is different than what's a priority to me, because you live in the US. So I could give you an exchange, doesn't matter to you, you can't access it, right? So different strokes for different folks. So you have to be able to balance and cater everyone's needs together. So it's a very holistic approach. And so what I've really noticed as we start to work towards that is that you almost have to spoon feed people, not because they don't understand, but because if you give them too much information, it gets lost in translation. So for instance, to Doctor of Stuff, OMI to NFT was very clearly NFT to OMI. But to someone else, OMI to NFT might have been OMI being sold for gems in a pool that gets converted into Ethereum, which gets routed to Monopoly money that's then somehow turns into gems, and then whatever, right? Like, it means something different to every single person. So why are we going to speculate on that? Why are we going to talk on that when it's not here yet? When OMI to NFT is here, people are going to very clearly know how OMI to NFT functions. But until that happens, just know that OMI is a priority to be utilized in the platform. And one of the byproducts of that is having OMI for NFTs, right? And so, and then part of the fun is that people get to speculate, right? People get to put out polls. What is OMI to NFT to you? Hey, are you going to use OMI to NFT when it comes out? And then we start to get that feedback, because best believe I'm lurking, right? I'm looking at all those polls. I'm looking at all those comments. Just because I don't comment on them doesn't mean I'm not taking all that feedback back and going, hey, interesting. Someone brought this up. Oh, hey, someone's asking about this. Oh, hey, someone wants this. So, you know, it's a really good way to create conversation in your community. And so sometimes, you know, I'll leave sound bites. I'll purposely leave things vague or whatever, because clarifying them is no fun. Watching people speculate on what something might mean is a lot more fun, because it gets people talking, right? It gets people focusing on the project again. And that's the exciting thing for me. So will exchanges roll out at the rate in which they've been rolling out? We've had one exchange every 3 weeks for the last 3 weeks. So are we going to have an exchange every 3 weeks? I have absolutely no idea. But we've had 2 exchange listings in the last 2 years. Do I think that we will have another exchange in the next 2 years? Right? So it's just the context of the question. Like, accessibility will continue to be a priority. There's a lot of exchanges out there, but once again, not all of them are going to come with fancy announcements and all that kind of stuff as well. Not all the exchanges are going to be ones that people have necessarily even ever heard of. At the end of the day, our recommendation will always be, regardless of what exchange is announced, that people self-custody their tokens. You use exchanges for trading. You get on, you get off, and then you keep your tokens wherever you feel most comfortable having your tokens. Doesn't matter what exchange we announce. Doesn't matter how reputable it appears or how irreputable it appears. An exchange is simply an option to exchange one token for another token. How you use it is entirely your business. But yeah, we obviously caution people and recommend that they be careful.
Foster, I love you.
I love you too, buddy.
Yeah, man, you just spent like 2 hours with us, basically.
Has it been 2 hours? Holy
Yeah.
crap.
I mean, yeah, like 2 hours to like an hour and 45 minutes. I can't recall exactly when you jumped on with us.
I might have to start getting paid by the hour here. I might have to renegotiate things.
But see, look, like you jumped on because like you're passionate about this, right? And this is like I just appreciate that. And there's so many, I just, again, I'm in a lot of different projects, and there's some great communities out there. Honestly, there are, and
There definitely are.
And VV, man, like you got this spectrum of emotion for sure. You got the anger, but then also just the complete like community, just welcoming vibe. And like I'm grateful for that, and grateful for all the hard work you're doing. I don't want to keep you from your baby, but I really appreciate your time, Foster, honestly, and being able to answer some of those questions and actually clarify one of the questions that I thought I understood, right? When we were talking about spoon feeding, sometimes I got to be spoon fed too, right? With that average thing, I was like, okay, yeah, like that's very helpful. I'm going to re-listen to that because, I didn't, I guess, realize that if you don't get that OMI in right at the beginning there, then you're not going to hit that 10 million no matter what, even if you have above the 10 million. That's good to know. So
like I said, for this season, probably less important than it was for last season. But at the end of the day, we always reserve the right to build out features, you know, after the fact, right? Like just because a feature isn't announced at the beginning of a season doesn't mean that it can't be added in after the fact, right? Like this airdrop was something that was added in after the fact, right? So, you know, we're always going to look to find ways to encourage the community to participate in the ecosystem, because realistically, that's what the token's meant to do, right? Is it's meant to be utilized in the VV app. So if we can find a lot of fun and cool ways to encourage that participation, then we're absolutely going to do that. And obviously, you know, the seasons right now are every 3 months for seasonal based rewards, but there's daily rewards as well. You know, you earn daily MCP points for having OMI in the platform every single day. So don't feel like just because you missed the beginning of a season that you just shouldn't participate, because there's still a ton of benefits. I think you get like 55,000 MCP points for a season. You have 10 million OMI, right? So there's still a lot of benefits to participating on a daily basis. And I think once OMI NFT comes and once people are utilizing OMI in the ecosystem regardless, we're going to start to see even more people getting rewarded. We're going to see more features being built out as a byproduct of that. And it's going to be really cool to see how much adoption we can get with this thing. Like, I think there's like between 13 and 15 billion OMI on IMX layer 2 currently, which is like 5% of the supply, I think, or maybe I'm doing math really terrible.
It's about that.
3 to 5%, somewhere in that range is late. Yeah. Right? With really not that much. Like, if I'm being honest, right? Like, it's not that much right now, right? So it's gonna be really cool to see what happens when we have more features, right? Like, when we have OMI NFT, does that number go up? Does it go down? Like, when other features come out, does it go up? Does it go down? And so yeah, keep the feedback coming, guys. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're not already building out all the things that you're suggesting, but everyone makes a difference. All it takes is one person to have a good idea that completely changes the outlook of the entire project. So don't be afraid to share your opinions with us on socials. Hop in the Akomi Discord. We're in there all the time. I think we have over 2,600 people in there now, and it continues to grow every single day. It's really awesome to see everyone coming in and discussing a bunch of different things. And yeah.
I love it. I just to end, it was so fun just to see these, comments about, because I did listen to Randy comment about how you say bagel.
I've mentioned more than once on my stream that you've done that, and as a New Yorker, it just I don't know, caused something in me to like flip a switch. I'm like, Father,
hey, what's the matter with you? I want a bagel. No, thank you so much for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. And I didn't want to railroad when I reached out to you guys. I didn't want to railroad your
by all means.
Your speculation stream.
This is amazing. And Randy, if you have some time, I still want to chat with you a little bit.
You know me. Well, let's go all night.
Yeah, I can't go all night, man. I can't.
That's gonna be misconstrued in a couple of different ways. I was gonna make a railroad train joke as well, but I'll not do that.
Guys, always a pleasure. I hope you enjoy the rest of NFT NYC. Randy, I hope you have a good one as well. And thanks for sticking with us, fam. I really appreciate all the support in the comments as well. And we'll see you guys around. Looking forward to more announcements and stuff to come. So
awesome.
Good night, sweet prince.
Yeah. So listen, guys, we got 365 people right now watching this stream. That's hands down the most. 366. It's gone up. The most that I've ever had. And I think that's a combination of obviously definitely you, Randy, and then Twitter has gotten they've definitely been pushing their algo to get people to watch these streams on Twitter. Now it doesn't count towards the viewership on YouTube, but I love that because really the whole point is to get more exposure and to talk about the project. And so if we can get more eyes on it that way through Twitter, then I'm stoked. So I wanted to give a couple updates here real quick on some of the stuff with NFT NYC. Let me get my phone real quick. Hold on, because I took notes there.
You showed it. Look at Dr. Stuff doing the catwalk. Oh, sexy.
The catwalk. I'm too sexy for my shirt. Okay, so let's see. It's really interesting. So one of the talks, there was a guy, and this is something I hope VV fam is well, I say like the VV fam, VV team. And I don't know, I truly don't know how they could make this work. But one of the things that Pudgy Penguins has started doing to get more exposure for their project is just uploaded a ton of GIFs, right, into Giphy. And so when people are searching for like an action, like typically one of the GIFs is going to be a Pudgy Penguin doing something. Right. So is there a way for VV to, with their like the IP that they have of the Back to the Future or something like that, using some of that? I don't know, with the IP, like licensing rights, or they're not making money on it, but like if they can somehow get that with like a VV logo symbol in at the bottom, while then doing like a GIF with like Spider-Man or something, like with the Secret Rare Spider-Man, or like, I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but because he basically said like they've been growing their exposure with GIFs, and you start growing the fan base with that exposure, because then people were like, they're like, oh my gosh, like they see the Pudgy Penguin in the store with the fidgetal, right? And they're like, my boss uses like those GIFs all the time in our Slack channel. And so I thought that was really interesting. And I was like, I mean, it's a lot more difficult, I would think, with all of the things that VV has, their ability to do that. But anyways, it was something that they have done, and it's really, really given them like significant amount of exposure there. Let's see. I learned a lot more about like ordinals, and that actually I went to the Havening event there, and there's a lot of people just talking about ordinals and Satoshis, and I listened to Casey Rodomore, who is the guy who built the ordinals protocol, and that was crazy. I like was able to talk to him after like his talk. Like, this dude is like huge. Well, he's hated and loved, and like he's hated by Bitcoin maxis, but then loved by the NFT Bitcoin community for what he's been able to build. So that's something that I do want to learn more about, and I have to apologize to Dave. Dave has been telling me about stacks and ordinal, like all this stuff for quite some time, and I just have not put in the time to do that. Then like the Dapper Labs lawsuit, that was really interesting. They talked about, and I don't know if you know much about the Dapper Labs lawsuit, but the SEC filed a lawsuit, right? Basically saying that Dapper Labs, through NBA Top Shots, they were selling unregistered securities.
Yeah.
And so then Dapper Labs had this motion to dismiss that went to court, and the judge basically ruled like, hey, that I feel like there's enough merit there that I'm not going to dismiss this case, and it is going to go to trial. And it hasn't gone to trial yet. But one of the big things that was really like a huge crux in SEC's argument was like based on the efforts of others, right, which is part of the Howey test, and but they like Dapper Labs has their own private blockchain, and that in and of itself was like that's like a really big sticking point that this attorney who was talking was saying, that might be something that impacts Dapper Labs. So it'll be interesting to see how this space. But like this is how. So then I was talking to. What's that?
In a good or a bad way?
In a bad way. In a bad way, because Dapper Labs controls that blockchain completely, and everything that goes on that blockchain, then like everything in that ecosystem is based on the efforts of the owner of that blockchain. It's kind of like the argument. Now, again, this hasn't gone to trial. This is just, and things can flip, right? And this is one attorney's opinion. But the nice thing that I know, like, is the fact that VV is talking to a lot of attorneys about this, right? They're definitely aware of this lawsuit and what the judge ruled. But like, it's so important, because then I said to the attorney, I just said, well, let's say that Dapper Labs NFTs are securities, but Dapper Labs has the money. And he's just like, yeah, there's a lot of things that come into play, basically like a lot of compliance and regulatory reporting and finances and everything. But then also on top of that, like there's like a time frame, like who can buy these securities, but then also when you launch the security, like there's a time before people can actually purchase it. Anyways, like it just threw a lot of complications into it. So that is something that like VV now, and that's what I think that David is trying to walk through and be like, look, these are digital collectibles. And I think that we need a separate thing here for that and what this is, right? And that's what they're working with regulators in a lot of different jurisdictions in talking about all of this. But anyways, that was just something that I'm excited for that Hester Pierce conversation where she's going to talk about NFTs. And I'm going to try to get talk to her afterwards and say, okay, so NFTs, but then what about digital collectibles? And do you differentiate in your mind, Hester? Is there a difference between NFTs and digital collectibles, like digitized Pokemon card or a baseball card, like so yeah, that'll be interesting there. Let's see. Ooh, go ahead, Randy.
Oh, I was just curious, like for NBA Top Shots, I thought they were on. I thought that was on Flow, and then the similar with UFC Strike and NFL All Day.
Yeah. So NBA Top Shots is on Flow, and Dapper Labs owns Flow.
Okay, so that's the whole thing. I mean, well, so if they own Flow, then and correct me if I'm wrong here. If you're like a security, doesn't that mean that just the SEC has more input on what you can and can't do, and they have to look into every transaction? Isn't that like impossible for them to do? Like, there's so many transactions over on that blockchain. There's like 9 other different teams developing on that blockchain. They have like $2 billion of volume. They're like $2 billion market cap. I just don't see how the SEC is going to try to enforce that, even if they go and win. Like, that's just impossible. Again, let me know if I'm interpreting that wrong.
Well, but the thing would be is like, hey, like if you guys can't report this, or if we need to look into every transaction, we can't do that. Then do they issue a cease and desist to Dapper Labs on the Flow blockchain, right? And that's why I think it's so important, because I do look at like Dapper Labs more as like a digital collectible, like these moments, right? They're collectibles, like so, like, and I think just like there's this kind of struggle between the Commodity Futures Trade Commission, the CFTC, and the SEC as to like, is Bitcoin, well, SEC has basically said Bitcoin is not a security, but then there's this question about ETH, and CFTC is basically saying ETH is a commodity, all these things, right? But where I'm going with this is that it's still up in the air, and there's still a lot there. So when people sit there and complain and they're like, hey, well, this token got listed on this or XYZ, right? It's, like, why isn't a Comey moving? It's like there really is. And I get this all the time, because everyone's like, well, your excuse is always regulatory uncertainty. And I'm like, because that's the answer. Like, that's the answer. You might not like the answer, but that's the answer. It's what they're trying to deal with. Otherwise, like, their whole plan was to do like burns and buybacks, right? Like, that's what they wanted to do. And it wasn't until the SEC started suing all these like companies and doing all this that they're like, maybe we got to rethink that. But so then the other thing that was super interesting is they talked about AI a ton, AI and the blockchain. And then there's this thing called AI agents. And these AI agents basically will focus on like certain like types of like fields. So there's this AI agent called Harvey, and all it focuses on is law. I thought that was really, really interesting. And so basically you'll be able to use this AI and be like, hey, AI, this is the type of like, I'll just break that on a will. This is my will, my living will that I want, right? Can you write me up like a legit legal document that I don't have to pay for, or I pay the AI, right? And they make some money, but like it's way cheaper than an attorney. But one of the things that like I learned here, this is crazy, guys, because this could be something that like could be used at some point in time on VV, but basically they are using AI now. Because in the past, like your AI was machine learning models, and what machine learning models did is they just looked historically, right? And then based on historics, they're like, we're trying to say, here's what this could happen. But AI now, right, is basically it's solving problems that it wasn't trained, the data sets didn't train it to solve. And so what they're starting to do now is on NFT projects, they've actually done these, like on Bored Apes, they've done this analysis, right? And they're basically saying like, what should the value of this NFT project be? And what they're getting to now is based on just metadata, without even like a project that is just launched, and you talk about traits and things like that. It's starting to be able to predict before even the launch what the price point of these NFTs should be. And I'm just like, that is.
Have you tried it? Like, how accurate is that?
So they said so far, like it's at like a 70% accuracy,
Okay.
and that it's getting better, like over time. I was just like, wow, like that's wild. Yeah. So Cosmo's talking about Goblin Town. They're using memes as well. So a lot of projects are doing that. I like Bill's the blue. He's already given the Wen logo. Like this is already happening. A Wen logo, and then it's a blue Wen logo as a meme everywhere. Let's see, Guy Thompson. I don't know if you want to talk about that,
Yeah, I
man.
could address that. I mean, it's like
Okay.
Foster was talking about before with, Tesla. We're supposed to have a fleet of full self-driving cars. That's why I bought, or I pre-ordered 2 Cybertrucks back in 2020 because I thought they'd be here by now. But that trillion-dollar company had delays, so it makes sense that a lot of times VV has delays with stuff. Though I mean, delays are common with everything, especially when you're talking about large amounts of money, like in the 7 figures. Lawyers are, if they get stuff done in 4 hours, they can charge 4 hours worth of work. If they delay things, like, oh, we have to charge for like 30 billable hours now, like it's for that amount of money to move, sometimes things get delayed. So like, why do you think I haven't been home in a little while? It's because I'm still at this whale month that's going on.
Whale week turned into whale month.
Yeah, whale week turned into whale month.
So let me just back Randy up here a little bit. Crazy Dan. Or not Crazy Dan, sorry, Guy Thompson. I have met some of Randy's whales, and they are going to be buying serious amounts of OMI. I'll just say that right now. I don't know exactly, like, will it pump the price or what will it do based on volume? Like, it could pump the price, right? Based on what the current trading volume is, it could, right? So, but look, like, there's always going to be people, and yeah, timelines, like Randy's timelines didn't match, but I can back it up on, like, I have met some of these individuals, and they are whales legitimately, and are like excited to buy the OMI token. So recap real quick, Crazy Dan. Basically,
To the moon. Sorry.
we started the conversation. It was a great conversation about Grimaldi's pizza and the crazy interaction I had with a lady there. But then Foster jumped on, and we kind of talked about season 1 and bronze tickets, and what happened with where people were upset, where people with less OMI still got like a significant amount of OMI or bronze tickets. However, what they didn't get is all 3 of the collectibles and all of the daily MCP points that the people who had 10 million OMI had. We talked about the different exchanges and accessibility of the token. So anyways, let's see, Dapper Flow, but you'll just have to watch and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, Crazy Dan. Dapper Flow are not the good guys. All the early Top Shop traders know this. Why they all got out and now despise NFTs. VV team is doing something very different than Dapper and Flow.
I feel like everything there is. I feel like Luke Skywalker at the end of the Last Jedi or whatever movie that was, where it says, "Wow, everything you just said was wrong." The early Top Shot traders, however many of them bought at the top, and maybe are now just salty that they, bought at the top. That doesn't. Let me go to that comment again real quick.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Oh God, I now despise NFTs. It would be the same if they would have gotten in like 2020, in like 2019, and bought anything in the stock market before COVID hit, and then it all just went to crap. Yeah, the VV team is very different just because of the way they're trying to go and navigate those waters of regulation. But to go out and say that every single person that bought NBA Top Shots doesn't like it, that's false. I know a couple of people that thoroughly enjoy that. I know a couple of people now that are doing nothing but buying stuff on NBA Top Shot, on NFL All Day, and on UFC Strike, because again, like you were saying before, or Foster was saying before, the people that get in when things are going good and that narrative changes, they will not know the vicissitudes of the past because it will have already happened and it didn't happen to them.
Yeah, and right, and there's a short-term memory there, or people come in and there might be people complaining and they're like, "Yo, what?" Like, well, this, whatever you're complaining about, like, I don't have that problem. Like, it's here now. OMI the NFT is here. So like what are you even talking about? And that dies down very quickly, right? Because and that's the thing, that's why there's always another when question, or there's always some FUD, right? Because cash out, there's never going to be cash out. There's always, it's so funny, right? Like these people that and I sometimes I just sit there and think, and I'm like, what are these people doing with their lives? I mean, like I truly want to know. I'm very interested as to like why someone just constantly complains. And it could be right that they're down bad and they're emotional and frustrated. And I'm like, I got nothing wrong with that frustration. But like to make blatant claims like that, like I saw this tweet and it was just like one was a rug pull and one is OMI, and they're both down
I blocked
bad,
that
right?
guy.
Yeah, and like again, like what's the purpose behind that, right? And that to me is FUD because again, they use different timelines, and on top of that, it's like and he's like one's like a slow rug, and I'm like, okay, but one is literally building utility for the token, and one I've been rugged before, right? So one of my projects, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's called Soul Bank. This project Soul Bank, it was on Solana. Solana was hot back in 2021. They were a privacy token. There was a lot of hype around them. And then what happened is they launched their token and actually did pretty well for the first couple weeks or something. And then the bear market started to hit, but then Solana kept breaking, right? And the token just tanked. And literally one day out of the blue, the team who wasn't doxxed, they printed like an additional, I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of tokens or like an insane amount of tokens and just dumped it on the market and took whatever they could and left. That's a rug. Okay. Yeah. So I get really irked when I sit there and people are sitting here like this is a rug and then this is like a slow rug. And I'm like, you don't know what the crap you're talking about. First of all, but then second of all, like, yeah, like those people, it's just worth like, it's not like I just block them because you're not trying to add value to the space. I don't mind valid complaints, but when you're trying to make these comparisons, like that's when I just feel like you're just attacking the project. But then again, I'm like, but why? What drives you to that? I don't know if they just want that exposure. But anyways, whatever. There.
Yeah. So I didn't. Just to clarify, I didn't block that person because of the question of the original post. Of just, hey, here's a comparison. One was a rug, one's a Comey. I blocked the person because they confirmed in the comments that they said, oh no, Okomi's a rug. And I was like, okay, well now you're just lying. And I just don't deal with that. So.
Yeah. Well, so I only block people, who like intentionally are trying to deceive or they're lying. And to me, like either they don't know enough about the space. Like, I don't know. They're emotional like that, which again, I don't mind people being upset because their bags are down. That's fine. But when they then make those type of comments, which are completely false, right? Then I'm like, well, I don't want to give you, if I comment or if I see that, like this gives your platform more exposure, and I refuse to give you that exposure there, right? So DZ, so OMI and VV are the parent company. Orbis Technologies is the parent of both OMI and VV. Is there a burn mechanism for OMI? Not yet. Like there was a mechanism and there is a burn mechanism basically that's happening, but it doesn't impact the price or the circulating supply at all. It's meaningless at this point. But there will be this. There will be the OMI to NFT function actually will create like a burn mechanism there because a certain.
Did they confirm that?
Oh. I thought that they had.
VV Viral has been very vocal about that, but I think it's just speculation at this point.
Okay. Well, look. My understanding was in the recent past, like within the last year, they did talk about a mechanism which, based on a user's decision, would burn the token. Now, I don't know if that's like converting OMI to gem or something along those lines, but that's how they have to structure it. Is it has to be the user's choice, right? It can't be based on the efforts of VV. Right. So someone has to be able to make that decision and push the button and say, I'm going to do this, knowing that this token will get burned or percentage of this token will get burned. That's my understanding. But hey, I'm willing to take a step back and say maybe that's incorrect until we get more clarification. But that's my understanding. And I thought that you would back me up on that. So
anyway. VV Viral's been vocal about that, saying that he believes, like without shadow of a doubt, that that would be the case. We probably should have asked Foster while he was on, or maybe we shouldn't have. Up until they come out and confirm that, I just
that's fair. That's fair. That's a good point. So here's another guy. Check this out, Randy. This blew my mind, bro. This is like when they were talking about AI. So right now there is this game, and it's called Turkish Carpet Salesman. And
okay, I like it so far.
Oh, I love it. And basically the game is you're trying to negotiate with the AI, who is the carpet salesman, to try to buy the carpet from the AI at the cheapest price possible. Right? And there's this competition of people trying to get it for the lowest price. But basically what they're saying is, and he's like, I haven't seen this yet, but there could be a project that basically utilizes the AI, and the mint is you negotiating with the AI for the mint price.
Oh,
and I'm like, that is insane. That like blew my mind. Right. So like, obviously we're talking about OMI and VV and things, but like, I also said that I wanted to give updates on NFT NYC. And this is one of the things that stood out to me. I was just like, I would absolutely love, because I always bartered growing up. Look, I was poor, and like I would always try to like nickel and dime or like whatever I could do, right, to do that. And so when I was in India, and my wife and we bought this incredible rug, hand tied, hand knotted rug. It was so gorgeous. And like we went toe to toe with this salesman, right? Like just negotiating and doing all this stuff. And I loved it so much. And I probably still lost, but I walked away thinking I won, which means that I knew that he won, you know, like, but anyways, that was super fascinating to me, man.
Yeah, so, I love that too. Sorry, here's it.
No, go for it.
There's a Rugrats episode where they go back in time, or they don't go back in time. It's just a flashback. And I forget what the main premise was. I think like Tommy and Dill were having issues fighting, and or Angelica and the kids are having issues fighting. And Stu's going to his dad and it's just like, I don't know like what to do. And Grandpa Lou has this flashback of the two boys playing a game called Haggle, where one is pretending to be a store owner and the other's a customer, and they're supposed to haggle. And long story short, after the kids are wilding out and like destroying the place, Stu's like, oh, I don't remember that. Why didn't you punish us? He's like, well, you were doing what I wanted you to do all along. You were just getting along. But yeah, when I saw that episode, I was like, oh, that game Haggle sounds really fun. And like nobody like in my circle of friends would ever want to try to play that game. And I was like, come on, guys, let's play. And yeah, now I love finance, and I love I love that stuff as well.
Oh, that's so good, man. Yeah. Yeah, that's just something. I just laughed, and I'm like, that's coming. The AI stuff is coming. It was really fascinating. There's quite a bit of AI talking about that, and NFTs and the blockchain, and how to utilize AI. And like everyone knows ChatGPT, which like apparently is actually like not one of like the best like AIs or large language models like out there. Like that was fascinating to me. But so I wanted to talk to you about like, so I think that we've got some pretty good speculation on what we think that this airdrop is going to be now, right? Is probably like an OMI logo or the Akomi logo somehow, and probably like the different colors. Like I'd like to like, what are your thoughts after talking to Foster? What do you think that's going to be? Because I've seen different variations, right? Like the OMI logo, which is like that red circle with like a line through it, right? Then there's the Akomi like circle dots type thing there. So or just like the name Akomi, or even just OMI with the dollar sign. Like what do you think that could be?
I think you kind of nailed it. I mean, those are the things that would make the most sense. Those are the ones that I mean, like you were saying before, like when talking about Pudgy Penguins and the gifts, like, well, after every picture you take in AR, you have VV down at the bottom right corner. So that we already have a kind of a little bit of advertising for VV there. There's nothing really for people to advertise a Komi. So I think if you have some collectibles with that, and then maybe, I mean, they wouldn't be able to do it for everyone, but maybe the one of 577, if you have that, or if you have all of them, I don't, I think it would really matter at that point. If you have all of them, or at least just that one, you get maybe an additional airdrop like every year or something. Or it might be something like with Ron English, because he does everything for like the VV gold logos. He gives away all that stuff for free. He just makes them. So maybe he does something with a Komi. Like we don't have any gifts of any of our own IP or characters. So maybe Ron English makes something with like a rabbit with a Komi on his shirt or something like that. Again, this is just speculation of what I would like to see. I think that'd be cool. Whatever they come out with, I'll be happy with, I hope.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if they'll do like a gold and silver type, or I feel like whatever it is, it's going to be the same design but just different colorway. That would be my guess.
I hope they wouldn't do that. I mean, that would be easiest. So I guess I hope they would, because clearly the people that are working at Veve and OMI are working. I hope their salary is better for the company, but they're earning their salary, they're earning their paychecks, and this type of thing, whoever's working on it, it would take away from their more important jobs that they're doing. The reason why I hope they wouldn't do that is because I can see it already. The photos like, oh, it's like the collectibles that we had, same collectible in 5 different poses. It's the same collectible but in different colors. That's lazy, and it's like, come on, guys. Like, I don't know. Feel like damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Yeah. I mean, because you'll get some people who are like, well, but I wanted them all the same with the different colors so I could collect the set. Wait, what is promo button? I don't know. Like promo button? I don't get that one. Herb, but
I think the thing that Foster held up, maybe he's talking about that. It was like that was Truck and Hank's gift, I think.
It was funny because it did look like a bullseye, and so then like as we're talking about that, like the one click Omi type thing, and then like he's holding up this bullseye, like you just hit it right on the dot, and he's like, maybe I shouldn't hide right behind this, but this is really cool, Mo. I didn't know that that you teach AI in college. That's the other thing, man. I got to give a shout out to well, and this is interesting. So pretty much now, as I've started to travel for my work, like I'll reach out, I'll tweet out, and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to be in this city. Any of the VV fam reach out to me. And I got nothing from New York, man. Like
really?
No love from New Yorkers. So CB, I know like whether you watch this or not, I'll shout you out on Twitter and give you crap because I know your freaking handle is like CBNY1 or something. Like I know you live in New York. You didn't reach out. Randy, I did reach out to you, but you were gone.
Unfortunately.
Now what is
I was supposed to be there.
But like I was just surprised. But what was really cool is I went to this happening event, and then one of the VV fam, like I just checked my DMs, and they took this picture like that you would only get at the happening event, and they're like, "Yo, are you here?" And I was like, "Whoa, wait, what the?" And then it happened to be Omar.
I love it.
So like I hung out with Omar that whole night basically and just got to know him. And man, this community is so solid. And where I'm going with this is Mo. Like I am just continuously surprised and amazed at like the varied backgrounds of this community and just how awesome people are. Like that is phenomenal, Mo. You teach AI in college, like that's amazing, and it was fun to talk to Omar and hear some of the stories of like things that have happened, and like I was just like, oh my gosh, man, like this is crazy, So listen,
when it's all settled, he'll get on the podcast and talk about that because it's an insane story.
It is an insane story. I was just like that. I'm like, this is real? And he's like, yes, this is absolutely 100% real. But man, yeah, it was cool. It was just cool to interact with the VV fam, and I love that. And that's one of the things that I just love about this community is, like I interacted with some of these other people, and there's excitement around the new technology and ordinals and runes, but a lot of the talk was like around price, and it's just like, oh, you're like, this is gonna be early, like runes are gonna like moon. Whereas now, like, because like OMI and VV like a lot of stuff is like down, it's like the true believers who are just like I enjoy this, right? And so like that's what the discussion is about, and that's what this community is about still. Now, don't get me wrong, I would love, and I think in the future a lot of my collectibles may be worth quite a bit of money if digital collecting becomes a thing in the future, right? Absolutely, and I'm definitely down for that. That's one of the things that attracted me to it. But at the same time, like there are some collectibles now that like I just love. I just like love interacting with, man. Like the Cookie Monster one, I have so much fun with that with my kids. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot more like the Big Bird. I mean, there's a lot of the kid ones, but then my son loves the Hulk Smash. He loves Hulk Smash so much, and like I'll put something like on the ground, right, that he like smashes and he just giggles like he's about to turn 3. It's just this perfect age. Like we can just do that for so long. But anyways, I just had to shout out Omar with that. Like it was so cool just to get to know more of the VV fam. So VV fam, if you're watching this, whenever I'm traveling, please respond. Yeah, like I just love interacting with people if you want, but it's always been a good time there. So
yeah, me and Lori always talk about how there's not as many people on the East Coast as we would like. Obviously, Omar's there. Wendy comes up for NFT NYC every year, but yeah, there's not a ton of people on the East Coast. Yeah, all of y'all are in the West.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I do interact with a lot of people on the West Coast, and that's where so I'm super excited to meet a lot of people at San Diego Comic-Con this year. Crypto Rain and and obviously like there's big shindigs happening there. And that was the other thing, right? Like that you're aware of. I only posted it in the gold and silver VV logo chat. I didn't post it on Twitter, but I ran into Pro the Doge, right? Who you interviewed on your channel, and you talked to him about the VV gold and silver logo. But I actually recorded a video because I was talking to him. So down to earth. He reminds me so much of you, Randy. Honestly, like his entire story. It's so paralleled. It's wild. But even like the personality of just like who you guys are, like Pro the Doge is just, he's so down to earth. And I tweeted that, right? Just an affable, bearded hip hop fan, and rap fan really. And actually, as I was waiting to talk to him, he legitimately was talking about a rapper with someone like that. He loves that passion and things. But so I talked to him. I'm like, hey man, I'm from the VV community, and I saw your interview with Randy, and he's like, oh yeah, totally. And I'm like, so my question is, are you gonna ever come to one of these like gold and silver logo events? I'm like, there's one happening in San Diego Comic-Con. He's like, dude, I absolutely want to come. I think it would be a blast. He's like I need to get in contact with someone about the ticket situation. I'm like, it's the ticket situation. There's no ticket situation. You have the gold and silver logo. Like that's your ticket. And he's just like,
I think he meant to the con.
Oh, okay.
Which it really doesn't matter because it's not that it doesn't matter. I mean, you can go for a day or so, but it's all about there are people going that are not going to the con. They're just going for the after parties. Yeah.
And in fact, like that's Crypto Cosmo, like who was chatting in here. I'm real good buddies with him, and that's his plan, is that he's just going to come and hang out with the parties. And I just said, look, because I talked Rain into applying for a press pass at San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah. I was like, you got the channel, you got that exposure, and so he got accepted, and so I'm going to be his +1, and then I'll be doing some live streaming as well there, and that would be my first Comic-Con I've ever been to, so I'm super stoked about that. But then and I mean, obviously I'll be covering VV like the entire
huge.
time.
You're gonna have a blast, but it's huge and it's amazing, and it takes over the whole city from the convention center to Petco Park across the street to many blocks out. There's always a dude there with like a fear God sign, and he's just like, cosplay is evil, dance, and and it's just like, Props to Commitment, bro. I see him there every year. It's right across like the little train station they have there. But yeah, it takes over the whole town. It's amazing. Yeah, so Pro had him and Andre Jick. They made sure to get ones that had no redemptions on them, meaning that they can go and get the redemptions whenever they get there. So
Good
that's
for them. I wish I would have done that. I bought one from the community, which I'm very I love that I was able to help that individual out. And yeah, but I definitely was like, oh, if I could get one that just had no redemptions. I wanted to address this with Squidcat. I am not a VV beta tester. No intel there. I actually Crypto Cosmo, he got accepted, but something's happened with his account, and they're working on it. He can't get in yet. With the second group, he's supposed to be in that second group. I don't know, Randy, if you've talked about it or if you can talk about it. I don't know. Are you in the VV beta?
They gave me the invite. So this is they gave me the invite, and I was like, okay, cool, do this. Confirm this email. But in order to get in there, they had to go and say you had to go into Discord and talk to I don't know who it was, but and they had to confirm like your information. And I was like, if the gatekeeping to get into like one of the most talked about and anticipated metaverses with the biggest IP in the world is going to be someone on Discord checking your personal information, Discord that gets hacked all the time, I was like, I'm not doing that. It shouldn't. I don't think it should be. It should be that. I mean, the team already has your info. The team already has like it. It shouldn't be that. So me and a couple other people are just like, we'll get to it when it rolls out to everyone. Now, obviously, nobody's had an issue. It's all been fine. But that's just the military me being like super cautious and super situational awareness and just
yeah. So to answer Jim Broski's, and I agree, Sabet, one of your favorite artists in the space, super cool. I did meet him, and he drew me this epic drawing, and on the back, signed it to Doctor. May you always be in love, Sabet, man. He's such an awesome individual. And I was telling him, I was like, hey man, how much does it cost for a commission piece? And he was telling me, and I'm like, well, depending on how well crypto goes for me down the line, I would love an actual painted piece of his. I love it. Him and Matt Gondek, man. And that's the other thing. So I click comics now, but just the artists that I've been introduced to, one of my favorite shirts is actually, I brought it here, Jermaine Rogers, right? With the choices, Phygital, right? Sure. I love that. But anyways, yeah, just, it wasn't my first time meeting him. I actually met him at DCon 2 years ago, but he didn't remember me. Obviously, he meets a ton of people all the time. I rarely meet artists, so there was a bigger impact for me. Remembered him there. He actually drew me something on that as well, but it was a smaller piece of paper. So this is a bigger one that I want framed. Super stoked to meet him. And again, he was it was funny because he was tweeting. He's like, "Hey, I'm here in New York, NFT NYC, and I'm going to be speaking." And I was in his presentation with some other artists, and he wasn't there. And I'm like, "Yo, are you where are you?" And the room was 4:10, and so he thought that his presentation was at 4:10 instead of 3:00. But because of my tweet, he's the response. He's like, "Oh crap! I got to get there." So he rolled onto the stage. And it was so funny because he was trying to be sneaky, but he is not a small individual. And so then even the artist just stopped and just waited for him to get on stage. But then he talked about stuff, and it was really cool to kind of hear how he worked through the bear market and his focus as an artist. That was really cool. And that's this NFT TMIC. I have met so many people there. Again, Pro the Doge, Crypto Wendy, and Shibtoshi. That was
Yeah, cool.
very interesting. But then like the Choose Rich Nick, man, that was so funny. Oh, that guy. And actually, okay, so here's something fun. You know what I'm talking about, Randy? I Choose Rich.
Is that the one that you mentioned on X?
Yes, the I
Yes.
Choose Rich. He's gone viral, right? And his first video was him on this yacht, and he's like, "This is who your crypto bros are trading against," and he's like, "I'm super successful," like right, and it just went viral, and everyone was like hating on him and like, "Screw you," and then people are like, "That's not even his yacht," and then he makes like another video where he's in this mansion house, and he's just like, "I just got back home," and blah blah blah, and it even got to where who's the guy who called out Logan Paul for his rug?
CoffeeZilla?
Coffeezilla. So
Yeah.
Coffeezilla does a video and of I Choose Rich Nick, right? And like, and I'm saying I Choose Rich Nick. That's not his name. I have to look again. But like, and Coffeezilla's like, he's got luggage here. Like, this isn't even his house, right? Like, and calling him out, and he just keeps like doubling down every time more and more. And it is amazing. He's like trolling all the haters. And so like they bring him on stage with these bodyguards. They're just like carrying him because he's like, that's how rich people enter the stage. They don't walk, they have people carry him. And so I was like, who is this guy? Right. And then he starts talking and he's just like, oh no, it's this persona. And he's again like one of the most down-to-earth people and just super chill. I was like, oh my gosh, man, like I love it. I've loved every second of NFT NYC so far. It has been so fun.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm jelly. We'll all go together next year. We'll all get a big thing.
Let's go, man.
Airbnb. Yeah.
I don't know. Like you gotta see, but you're gonna have like another whale year is what it'll be just next time.
We may actually be we should be out of there by then. We want to go to Puerto Rico because I mean crypto taxes down there if you become a resident are like 4%. As opposed to up here where it's like 21, 25%. So it's like, depending on when we're able to go there.
Here's I'll give an answer, Randy, but then I want to hear if you have any additional. Why sell an NFT for OMI over fiat? Why would you want to do that? Well, we don't know all of the utilities that OMI is going to bring, but I have to believe that the team is continuously working out different utilities. But one of them is if let's say that you don't want to go through the process of purchasing OMI or you don't have the money to purchase OMI, but you can sell your NFT and get that OMI and then it's in the VV wallet app and now you get access to the bronze tickets for each season. You're going to start getting MCP points. And so let's think about this. Maybe you have a Todd, right? And the Todd's selling for like $1,000. So you get $1,000 worth of OMI, which right now I don't know what the price of OMI is. But maybe that's like 1.3 million OMI or something around there, 1.2 million OMI. You all of a sudden have that in the app, and then you are getting additional, way more MCP points for that 1.2 million OMI than you ever did with that Todd. That maybe gives you like 3 MCP points like a day or 2 or something like that, right? But there's going to be additional utilities with that token, and whether it's discounts on VVIP, like for the VVverse, some of the accessories or something like that. There's going to be reasons where people are like, I just want to use the OMI. I just want to sell my NFT for OMI because I'm going to use that OMI and I'm going to get some of the benefits or the utility for having that token. So that's my answer. And we don't even know all of the other utilities, but I'd love to hear some more of your insights on that too, Randy.
Well, when like Foz was mentioning before, 10% cash out fee for fiat. You don't have that when you have OMI. And then also
that's a huge one.
Yeah, it's a very huge one. I mean, which if you're talking about $1,000, yeah, okay, $100. That's what it is.
That's still a chunk of change, man. $100,
It is. But when you have like Secret Rare Miles Morales, that $100 goes to $1,000 you have to pay, and that's a big chunk, and that don't sit right with me. So yeah, going to OMI, I'd much rather do that. And then for VV, like they don't have to pay you out. Like they don't have to take those gems and cash you out. They let the other people do it, which is great. And then on top of that, US dollars being printed into oblivion. Like, it's consistently lost value over the last, since 1913, so last 111 years, last 111 years. I would much rather have 8 million OMI as opposed to $8,000, because most likely in the next year, and this is not financial advice, is just my opinion here, that 8 million OMI is going to be worth a lot more than $8,000 in the next 12 months. But that's just my opinion. So that's why, like, I would much rather get that and then hold OMI, which is a what's it going to be called? It's going to be called a deflationary asset. It's going to increase in value, as opposed to the dollar that's inflationary, that decreases in value. But again, that's just me.
Yeah, no, I mean, great point with the 10%. And that's one of the biggest things is the ability to cash that out. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit, Randy, because I haven't heard people talk about this. But one of the concerns, and Danny DeBoll had talked about this before, right, is the current structure, well, no longer the current structure, but one of the structures that VV has had for quite some time is that when you buy gems, right, like VV's got to back that dollar for gem. $1 equals 1 gem, right? But they are only getting 70 cents of that dollar that you put in. And so there's this 30% gap that VV has to backfill. Right now, some of that money comes from secondary market transactions that VV gets like 2.5% from, right? And so over time, they can backfill that. But one of the things that this VV comic website, so we do have like the app, web app itself, where now it's 1-to-1. But the other thing that's happening now, right, is the VV comic website, where I am just straight up buying these comics with the credit card. Now there's a 3% or a 1.5% fee or whatever like that happens, right? And I don't know how much of the cut Marvel gets from that initially, but what that is that is additional income that is not tied to any gems or anything else. Then also creates kind of like a backup liquidity like option for VV. And right now that is a lot of liquidity that they got this influx in, right? And then on top of that, like as people are, now there's these comics that have not had gems used to purchase them initially. Then they're going straight into the secondary market, and people are having to use gems to purchase that, and they're burning that 2.5%. So this creates another revenue stream not tied to the gem purchases, which actually creates a stronger balance sheet for VV, which I think that a lot of people are missing that when people are talking about those concerns. I have not heard people talk about how this is actually a game changer for VV going forward in strengthening their liquidity funds management. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. So obviously people I think are not viewing this for what it is. And it's one of the most disruptive things that you'll see for physical comic book stores. Like Marvel, I'm sure they still make a decent amount, at least enough to keep them afloat. But I mean, Marvel, wind the clocks back 30 years ago, they were on the brink of filing for bankruptcy because comic books had gone down so much. They had to sell off all their licenses, and that's why Marvel didn't have access to a lot of their characters, and why Disney had to literally buy Fox in order to get the rest of the characters back, with the exception of Spider-Man for the movies. And so being a comic book company is the margins are very thin, and then when you couple that with with comic book shop enthusiasts, comic book people that always have the best intentions at heart, but sometimes are not the best business owners, and that's why you've seen comic book shops kind of dwindle over the last couple of decades. That I would guess the margins on those are thinner than Kate Moss on a juice diet. So when you go in here and you have maybe that's a bad thing to say. So when you go here and you have suddenly the margins are just uber plump, and they're like Winnie the Pooh on a honey diet, and they're just absolutely bananas. That's amazing. That's disruptive. Everyone that is not doing what Marvel is doing right now is losing out. They're dinosaurs, and they will go the way that Marvel's going, however long it takes them. The smarter ones will do it, are starting to move that ball right now. They're moving that torch. Other ones will come in later, and then ones just won't adapt, and they'll die. But VV did not need to do that. VV is very, very liquid. Back in the napkin math, what I did like a year ago, maybe put some at, I would say 20 plus million in the war chest. If y'all remember when they had like, I think there was 3 days where they had like 8 million in gem sales. And obviously a lot of that was not real. It was credit card fraud. Who do you think fronted that money with no issue while they were working out that stuff with the police and the international stuff? Like, where do you think that money came from? Like, VV had that. So it's...
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you there. There was no cash out. So because there's no cash out,
then they did. Okay, fair point.
They didn't have to front any money. And I actually believe that that's one of the reasons that cash out got delayed is because of that. And the liquidity that they would have had to front, that's just an assumption that I have. So I just had to stop you on that because
fair point.
But let me say something. So typically, like funds management practices for a business entity, they will have like a line of credit with an institution, right? Like a revolving line of credit or something that they can draw on for operations or things. So I would have to imagine that VV would have had that and would have been able to draw on that if necessary. I hope so. Now that's also an assumption that I'd have to say, but that is strong funds management practices that entities should have. Yeah.
I mean, VV could also, if they, I mean, their company's worth a lot less now than it was in the heyday when they were worth multiple billions of dollars. I would say now they're maybe worth $1 billion. They could sell a piece of their company and raise tens of millions, if not 100 or hundreds of millions at any time they want to. There's also a story that'll likely come out at some point where they really helped their users, and it was a thankless job that they won't get thanked for until it comes out. Where I don't know how much it costs, but it was quite a bit of money. And they decided to go and again, that'll come out at some point. So what was the original question? I forget where we were going here.
Oh, well, we were just talking about like liquidity.
And
the funds management practice. And you were talking about like VV's success and like the money that they were earning. But I don't know exactly where you were going with it, so I can't lead you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But yeah, they have no issues. Like I can't wait. I don't know if they'll ever go public. I hope they do one day. But there'll be other stuff that'll be announced at some point. Like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing with the money.
Yeah, well, and so like honestly, I'm excited for a day potentially where they do have like a Netflix special, right? And they can talk about this because if digital collectibles become a thing, you better believe that there will be a Netflix special. There absolutely will, and it'll be like, how did you, like let's walk through the story, and it will be cool to hear because by that time there should be regulatory clarity on a lot of things, right? And there will be a lot more that they can talk about at that point in time. It will be interesting to hear some of the behind the scenes things. And that hack being one of them. But I do think that is one of the reasons that the cash out was delayed is that they just had to like take that hit. And they're just like, oof, like, is it really worth opening this up and like really draining us to the bare bones on liquidity if we just push back and there could be people who argue and say like they shouldn't have done that. And it's like, well, maybe they had to survive, and like that's a business decision, and people can be happy about it or not. And those are some of the things we may never hear, like the full story on that. But one day, maybe like down the road, 20 years from now, David will tell all that happened. So let's see. I wanted to. Herbert asked. What do you think? And this is I've seen Wes complain about this quite a bit, right? He feels like it's lowering the price of like some of the OG comics. I'd love to hear your take on it first, and then I'll go after you.
Sure. I don't think, this is bringing a lot of money to the company. which is great. But I mean, you talk about, let's say like Fantastic Four #1. There are 16,000 commons of Fantastic Four #1 that are, I don't want to say locked up, but they're in accounts that have not been used in 15 months. They have not been active since before January 1st of 2023. And as, okay, well, if they're so scarce, why is it? Well, it's not that they're scarce. It's like there were 60,000 of those comics. I mean, you now have these scarcer items. You have less monthly active users, and you have these new comics coming out every week, and they're super scarce. So yeah, some people are going to sell some of their not so key comics that are one of 30,000, and they're going to buy these other ones that are one of 980. Then you also have people that are going to sell their really good key comics, like Uncanny X-Men #1 has like 4 first appearances in there, and they're going to sell that for something, these D tier comics that are just likely not going to go too far. Just maybe they do because of the scarcity, but I mean, that's just the psychology of people. And when you talk about investing, one of the things you have to look at is people's psychology. What are they going to do? Oh, this is new and shiny, you know, that. So yes, that is happening. Based on the scarcity of them and just human psychology, people should really be able to see that. But I love the fact that they're doing this to get this money to move, solidifying that partnership with Marvel. And then every week, so I've seen a lot of people in the US complain like, oh, I hate getting up at 3 a.m, you know, setting my alarm. I can't do this. Like, how do you think like Australia and the rest of these people felt for all of these years when the US had these amazing, you know?
Seriously, right? Like, man, we are so soft. Like, you know, here we are. It's been like 3 weeks, right? And then people in Australia have been dealing with this for like 3 years, right? And we're just like, oh, it's not fair. Yeah, man. No sympathy. Yeah. No sympathy. And I'm one of the ones waking up at 3 now, right? And like, yeah, that's funny, man. That is funny. I like your point. And one of the things too is some people are seeing some of these comics more just for the cover art of the artist, right? And they're saying this is a rare digital variant with the cover of an artist that I really love, and I don't really care what the comic is. It's this artist that I care about, and they're willing to pay premiums for that because there's not a lot of those comic covers. And one of the things that I think, like, it'll take some time for people to reconcile, right? But like, people are like, oh yeah, that comic's not worth very much in real life. And I'm like, correct. It's actually like a really beloved comic, but there's so many physicals still in existence that the value, the market cap, like is X. So if you then extrapolate that and say, well, because it's so much rarer here, what would like a comparable market cap be? What should the price point be? People are starting to look at that as well, you know? And that's something, who knows? Who knows, like, if digital comics or, you know, digital collectibles truly become a thing, that's where I think that some of this scarcity will truly matter, even for some of these D comics. And maybe it's a D comic because there's not as many appearances, but those D comics didn't have the variant covers that we now have on VV, right? And so that'll be something to consider. It's a great question, but it does alter the existing market. There's a lot more grails, but for me, I am enjoying that because I am picking up more of those grails, because at the end of the day, there's going to be people who are like, I've always wanted a Marvel one. I've always just wanted to own one. I've never been able to. I've never, you know, like, and I can own one. Even if there's 30,000 of them, there's going to be a lot less people who are like, I've always wanted to own an extremely rare Peach Momoko. There will be people, and those people will probably pay a premium for that, right? Yeah. But for me, I'm enjoying these lower prices on what are and Sleeping Comics talked about that too, right? He's just like, S tier comics are still S tier comics, you know, like, and I'm like, right. And so, yeah, with these big sales that have just happened recently, like on Heritage Auction, shout out to Comics and Crypto, right? I watched some of that live stream. That was really fun to see, but like, comics are not going away. And so for me, one of two things is going to happen. If VV truly becomes a household name, digital collecting happens. A lot of what you hold is going to do very well long term, right? But yeah, like, so I'm just not too worried about it. I think a lot of people talking about these price points right now, they've gotten used to what crypto can do and how short term price pumps are and how quickly things turn. And for me, like, VV has always been like a longer term play, like in general with a lot of these things. Now I've made some great flips. Shoot, I freaking sold a Pride for like 11 grand. You know, like, that was nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. And I like my 2 Todds, like, of the 3 that I had, the 2 Todds that I sold, like in the thousands. Like, and I've I flip things over time, and like, these things come in narratives, guys. And I think that we just need to take a step back. And number one, realize that there's a chance that VV doesn't work out. You have to have that. I think that chance or probability is extremely, extremely low. But it could happen, and you have to understand that. And so anytime I put money into VV and basically any other crypto, I have to be like, there's a chance this goes to zero. And I'm okay with that. Do I need this money? And if I need that money, I better not be putting it into any project, right? So I never put in more than I can afford to lose, and I'm willing to lose there. But it definitely, Herb, has impacted the current market prices of a lot of like the S tier comics, like these highly sought after OG comics. But for me, I'm enjoying it.
Same. We have so I guess before we wrap it up, there's one thing I want to kind of go over, or I guess two. One is the Marvel Mighties. I was saving up a bunch of gems in order to go, and because we have another Marvel Mighty set coming, and then we have the Venomizations, and that's going to cost a little bit. And I wound up having like about 500 gems, and for the next ones. But then I saw this sweet deal on a Lucky Rosso Gold, which I already had one of those. They're one of 80, and the people that like Tokidoki, or Asians that just like gold, there's a lot of them, or people that were born in the year of the dragon that like the Chonya Zodiac. I bought originally one at 539, and then this one just came out, and I got the other one at 500. So now I am trying to get desperate with like some gambling here, to try to get some more gems. And what I'm thinking about doing is that I've been watching the Marvel Mighties, the X-Men. They hadn't sold out, but there's like less than $2,000 worth of these, and they've been going with a couple $100 a day. And if you get the Cyclops or the Professor X, you're in the money. So I'm thinking about going and buying some blind boxes so I can recoup those gems. It's probably going to be a horrible idea. I'm probably going to lose money on it. But yeah, so that's what I might do tonight.
Oh, I love that. Randy, you just cracked me up, man. Look, you got to make plays somehow. And take those risks, right? Like, that's good.
Are you cool to talk for like 3 minutes after?
Yes.
Okay.
Look, I want to look, Randy. I have to say this is wild, man. Hold on just a sec. Let's try that again. We have 411 people on the stream right now. That is hands down the most I've ever had on a stream. I know that the large majority of them are coming from you, and it's awesome. Like, I love the support that you have. I was talking with Omar, and basically anyone that I talk to who's truly met you in person, it's always just like the nicest of things. But anyways, I just got to shout out the VV fam, all of you guys who participated. Again, I'd love it if you could support the channel if you haven't already. Please subscribe, hit the all notifications button. I'm going to be putting out more regular content, and I am going to be talking about other projects too. I think it's important to expand people's understanding of this crypto space. There's a lot of things being built that are really exciting, and some of them I think can make me money, and others I'm just really interested in. I really think that I like what they're building. I like those communities, and want to make you guys aware of that. So if that's something that you're interested in, please continue to support. But I'd love to hear some of your guys' speculation as to what you think that the airdrop's going to be. Will it just be different colorway variations of the OMI token? Will it spell out OMI or something completely different? So yes, I appreciate that. Appreciate you, fam. And again, have a great night. This is the longest stream that I have ever done, 3.5 hours. And it is crazy that we had this many people for this long. That is how incredible this VV community is. So again, hey, thank you, everyone. Wish you guys the best of evenings. Take it easy. Bye.
Bull market's back, baby.